Hello and welcome into Off the Bench. I'm back, baby. I'm back. It's the only day I'm going to be here all week, but I'm back here on a Tuesday, and we're ready to rock. Reed Mouse, Stone Shields. We got a good show for you today. We're going to be talking about this game this Sunday where we're taking on the New York Jets. Line has moved a little bit. The earlier line scared me quite a bit, if I'm going to be honest, but the new spread makes me feel a little bit more comfortable about it, just talking about how important it is to just get this one under the belt, get back to 500. We're going to talk just kind of around the NFL. I think it's a really unique season here in the National Football League. Every year is, but for this year it feels like there's a large middle class and really not many elite teams. We have our mailbag, our most popular segment here on Off the Bench. And Stone, those DMs, those emails that we get, I mean, they're just stockpiling them. We got some big names. We got some big names here this week.
Yeah, I mean, they keep coming. They keep coming. I know everybody loves the segment, and it seems like each and every week we get more participation when it comes to sending us the questions. So I know everybody's excited about the segment again today.
Yeah. So we got a mailbag, and then we're gonna bring back another popular segment from years past on Off the Bench, and it's Reed's Top 5. We're going to do Reed's Top 5 of additions I think the Cincinnati Reds should make this offseason, how they can make their team better. So be sure to tune in for Reed's Top 5 later on in this show. Stone, how are you? I haven't talked to you since last Friday. How you doing, big guy?
I'm doing great. Yeah, it's glad to be back. I know we only have it, for one show this week, but that's all right. After like we were talking off the air, the board events are slowing down a little bit this time of year, so we'll be seeing more of you on a more consistent basis. So we're happy and fired up about the show today, and then I'll try to hold it down for the remainder of the week. But it's great to have you back. I'm doing all good. We saw some great sports last night. I mean, how about Game 7? That certainly lived up to the hype. That was incredible. 2 Monday night games. Not necessarily great, but saw some good teams.
Yeah,
but
there were some good teams.
Yeah, and NBA tonight. I know you're excited about that opening night.
Who's your NBA team?
NBA, the Bulls. They suck, but
okay, I'm a Bull. Like, if you ask me who my favorite NBA team, I'd say Bulls too.
Yeah, they suck. But Buzelis,
they don't suck. They are forever mediocre.
Right, exactly.
They go 42
they'll get
and 40 every year.
Yeah, they'll get in the play-in this year and then lose, and then probably be back in the play-in again next year. That's what they've done the last 3 years, so I would expect more of the same. But I'm a big Steph Curry guy as well. He's in action today, so that's exciting.
What's the etymology of you being a Bulls guy?
I didn't, my team growing up, I wouldn't say I had a team. I was a Kobe fan. I know a lot of other people share that same reasoning there, but one of my good buddies is a diehard Bulls fan, and I lived with him for basically 3 years in college, and he watched every single game. So I'm like, well, if I don't have an NBA team, again, I wasn't a Lakers fan. I was just a Kobe fan. I tried to hold on for a few years, but I'm in Ohio. I'm not a Laker fan. And he was watching every game, and it's Adam Amin and Stacey King are the broadcasters. They're terrific, and they were a fun team for a while. So I'm like, if he's got it on every night, I might as well, be a Bulls fan. So I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm a diehard Bulls fan. I've been a Bulls fan my whole life, but since the beginning of college, I have cheered on the Bulls.
I have a similar story in why I root for Indiana Hoosiers basketball, and as my college roommate is a diehard Hoosier fan, like slamming the table every single night. Back in the day, it was past Oladipo, Yogi Ferrell, and stuff like that, and it was good. It was fun to watch him because I didn't know about the schedule at that time, so like it would just be randomly. I'd come back into the dorm and he'd just be fired up, staring at his TV, watching Hoosier basketball. But yeah, we got a fun show today. Alex Wallace was like, didn't they just do a Reds Top 5 editions on the Reds channel? I assume they did, but this is. Let me tell you, it's going to be a much different top 5. It's going to be old Rita Roo's top 5. But let's talk about the game this week. Also, before we get into about the Cincinnati Bengals game, just some exciting time here in Cincinnati. I know a couple weeks ago it felt like everything was falling at the seams when the Bengals sucked and the Reds got swept by the Dodgers. But here we turn around, FCC. They're getting ready to make a playoff run. We got the Bear Kittens in the top 25, and on top of that, the basketball team. Had a pretty good exhibition win, and the Xavier Musketeers are also a sports team in this town. So that's something too. They didn't have a good week, and from what I hear, it's not going to be the most fun season. But you never know. You never know. All right, let's talk about this game this Sunday because it is my only time to talk about the Bengals this week. And they are going to be taking on the New York Jets. When the line first came out, and it came out Friday afternoon, it was a look-ahead line. After the Bengals had beaten the Pittsburgh Steelers, the line had come out, and the spread was about 4 points. And I base a lot of my opinions based off of what Vegas kind of perceives this game to be. It's the same reason I was so confident in the Bengals beating the Steelers, because it felt like we should have been more than 5-point underdogs, and obviously we go out and win. When I see there were 4-point favorites against what is perceived to be the worst team in football, the New York Jets, you're sitting there going, all right, that doesn't feel good. And as I've mentioned before, if we're getting to a place where this Bengals team does something exciting, if the Bengals team has something to play for when Joe Burrow comes back in the middle of December, you pretty much circle in a win against this New York Jets team because they do appear to be the worst team in football. Justin Fields got benched over the weekend, and we don't know who's going to be playing this Sunday. We don't know if it's going to be Tyrod Taylor or Justin Fields. So, I mean, I don't know what the heck's going on there in New York, but point blank, I remember a couple years ago, Elliott, back when he was on this show, was talking about the Bengals had been playing their best football of the season, just beat the Bills, just beat the 49ers. This was back in 2023, and we come home, have a home game against the Houston Texans, who at the time no one knew was that good. They had this young quarterback, C.J. Stroud, and we didn't know that they would eventually make the AFC divisional game and torture the Cleveland Browns in the postseason, but he labeled this as a trap game because everything was going right, and you had some positive momentum, and they were 7-point favorites at home, and the Bengals are in a similar spot, granted against a much worse team in the New York Jets this week, but you have a chance to get back to 500, to show people that what you did on last Thursday against the Pittsburgh Steelers wasn't just a fluke. It was something for real. It was, hey, this is a team that I don't know if I want to label the Bengals as a good football team, but they can beat any other team. And when I talk about the NFL, and we're going to talk about the NFL here in a second, it feels like there's two to three elite teams, there's 4 or 5 dog crap teams, and then there's about 28 teams, 27 teams, whatever that math is, that can beat you on any given week, and the Bengals obviously fit in that middle class. So if you want to do anything exciting, you cannot let up. You got to keep pushing the throttle against a team that is a little desperate in the New York Jets. Things are kind of crumbling at the seams, and even though they played so well on Thursday, you could see this Bengals team really having a bad game, either with Joe Flacco, which we know he's going to start throwing picks at some point. That's what he's shown throughout his entire career, that he's turnover-laden. He's going to probably take a sack or two at some point. Like, there is a chance where this team is going to kind of fall on its face a little bit, and you just hope that you can take care of business. And the glorious part about where the Bengals are this year is, unlike college football, unlike a team that has to kind of prove that they're one of the better teams in the league, this Bengals team, it doesn't matter how it looks. That's the same thing for the first 2 games that they won this season, when they beat the Browns and they beat the Jaguars. And they made it like it was hideous games. They should not have won those games. But when you're in the NFL, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter when you're a team like the Bengals where they're at this season. And once again, it does not matter how you win. You just got to figure out a way at home as 7-point favorites on a team that is floundering, and you're riding the positive momentum forward. You've got to figure out a way to turn over their offense a few times. You got to figure out a way to get the ball in the end zone, get the ball to Jamar Chase, get the ball to T. Higgins, have Chase Brown in the run game continue to flourish as they did on Thursday night, and you got to figure a way just to put this one away and get back to 500. And after you do that, you can start looking ahead, and you play another home game against a team that has some positive momentum too in the Chicago Bears, and you just keep it moving and you keep it going forward. But you cannot fall victim to the quote-unquote trap game that this week presents. I mean, I've made a joke out of it at this point about how much I'm flip-flopping because I truly do not understand what to do about this team. And last week I said, if they beat the Steelers, I'm on board. If they beat the Steelers, I'm on board. They lose the Steelers, I'm all the way out. But as much as I say I'm on board, you lose to the New York Jets, and then it's pretty easy to like, all right, there's the door right there. I think I should get back out of this room. I think I should get back out of this. Stone, I know you're typing away over there. But how I wouldn't say I'm on a scale of 1 to 10. I wouldn't say I'm very nervous about this game because it is against what is perceived the worst team in the league, in the New York Jets. That don't seem to do anything right. Like, their defense doesn't look good, their offense doesn't look good, their coaching doesn't look good. But it is the NFL, and any given team can win on any given week. And we're obviously not one of those elite teams that can kind of sleepwalk into a victory against a team like this. On a scale of 1 to 10, how nervous are you for this game? Because I'm at like a 4. Like, I'm not that nervous, but it definitely creeps up in my mind from time to time. Should I be nervous about this game this Sunday, or do you think we'll just kind of take care of it?
I think anytime the Cincinnati Bengals take the football field, you should be nervous as a fan. That's just kind of where we're at as an organization. I mean, even if Joe Burrow were fully healthy, I think you come into this game like, because it feels like such a massive game for Cincinnati. As good as, it felt on Thursday night getting the victory against Pittsburgh, I mean, that's completely ruined and taken away if you lose this game. So there's immense pressure coming into this game for Cincinnati. And, look, we've seen this team play horrible football at points throughout the year, and if they do that again against this Jets team that's starving for a victory, they're fighting for jobs. That coach is trying not to be a one and done. Like,
desperate. They're
desperate. They're a desperate football team. And as you mentioned at the top, there might be a shakeup at quarterback that oftentimes can provide a spark. So yeah, I think there's absolutely reason to be nervous. If you're the Cincinnati Bengals coming into this game, I'd probably put it at like a 7 on the meter. I'm not going to sit here and predict that they're going to lose, but like, if you go out there and sleepwalk through this thing, or you have turnovers, or you are penalized way too much in this game, you're going to lose. So you got to show up, and you got to continue to build off what you've done the previous 3 halves. I have optimism that they're going to be able to do that. But, yeah, I mean, it's the NFL each and every week. I mean, you got to show up and bring your best. And this team is scratching and clawing for their first victory. And the last thing you want as the Bengals is to allow them to get that against you on your home field.
Yeah, the one thing that Zach Taylor has to beat into his team, and I don't know how his rah-rah speeches or anything like that go, is this team, I mean, we're just simply not good enough to sleepwalk through a game against the Jets. The Detroit Lions, because of how stacked their roster is, could show up against the Jets and come with a terrible game plan. They could show up hungover, and they'll still probably win. Same thing could be said for the Philadelphia Eagles, or it could be said for the Kansas City Chiefs. It can't be said for the Cincinnati Bengals. Like, you still have to show up. You still got to put the foot on the pedal, foot on the throttle, and you've got to continue to ride this positive momentum that you have, and you can't let up. You cannot let up. You've got to be able to take care of business, get back to 500, beat a bad team at home where you are touchdown favorites. It might be one of the few times for the rest of the year that the Bengals are more than a field goal favorite. I mean, go ahead and look at the schedule. Maybe at the end of the year, those final 3 games, but we'll play the Bears next week, and I'm very curious to see what that line's going to be, regardless of how this week comes, because I think the Bears are 7-point underdogs against the Baltimore Ravens. We're 7-point favorite against the New York Jets. So it'll be interesting. I mean, you're bringing up the schedule there. Like, there's not many opportunities where you should say, like, hey, even if you don't have your best foot forward, you can take care of this game pretty handedly. And that's what it is with the New York Jets. Like, you can't sleepwalk through it, but you could turn the ball over 2 times. You can make some penalties. You can do those things and still walk out with a win, either with it's Justin Fields or Tyrod Taylor. Like, it doesn't matter. You can show up and you can still win this game without your best game, but you just can't absolutely lay an egg. You got to get it done. It doesn't matter how it looks, but you've got to get the win. Stone, you ready to go around the NFL here with segment number 2?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, let's talk. I haven't talked a whole lot about the National Football League. Stone's got to talk for an hour every single day on his show, so I know he dives into other teams, and this has really turned into a very heavy Bengals show. And I'm going to be honest here, it's because it's my biggest fandom here. We're going to dive back in, especially when I get back next week, about some of these other teams and some exciting things that are happening in this city, between FCC, between UC, and just talking kind of the vibe around the NFL, which is just a glorious, glorious league. But let's talk about some teams around the National Football League. What's the first question? Yeah,
so we got 5 of them here that we're going to work through here on today's show. We've talked kind of at length here about, the balance between the AFC and the NFC, which conference is better, which conference has more, Super Bowl contenders. So let's talk about the AFC right here. Who do you think are the best teams in the AFC right now?
Yeah, it's pretty curious because if you look at the AFC playoff picture, I think the 8th team, like they're not even in the playoff picture, is the Kansas City Chiefs. I think that's right. Maybe that has changed recently, but the last I looked at it, they were on the outside looking in. The Bengals were the 9th team. And the Kansas City Chiefs are pretty clearly the best team in the AFC. And it's just funny because 3 weeks ago we wrote them off after they lost to the Jacksonville Jaguars on Monday Night Football, and here they are. And it's a testament not only to the Kansas City Chiefs, but what has happened around the AFC, teams that like the Buffalo Bills, who we pretty much penciled in like, this team's a dynamite team in the AFC. There's some serious questions there. I still think they're very good. I still think they're going to win double-digit games. I still think they're going to do a lot of great things. But there's some serious questions there. The Baltimore Ravens are 1-5. Another team like the Cincinnati Bengals are 3-4, and they're without Joe Burrow. So the teams that you kind of always considered to be in that AFC playoff picture, like only one of them is looking good. So then you start looking around like, all right, well, this Indianapolis Colts team, they're pretty good. And yeah, they've got a really good roster. Like they are pretty sound. Daniel Jones in that offense, it's for real. I don't know how for real Daniel Jones is, but that offense is for real just because of good line play. They run the ball well. They've got some weapons for Daniel Jones to work with. Shane Steichen's a better offensive mind. He kind of doesn't get the recognition that other head coaches do because part of it is because they drafted a terrible quarterback in Anthony Richardson that was never going to work, which if Shane Steichen's doing this with Daniel Jones and Daniel Jones is looking like this, man, what a testament that is for how poor Anthony Richardson played these past few years. So obviously the Colts are really, really good. I mean, there's a lot of teams. I mean, this is a bad AFC this season. Like there's not like I said, there's not the Bills. Like is the third best team after that, you'd say probably a team like, could you say the New England Patriots? Drake May looks really good. The Broncos team looks pretty like the games they're winning are hideous, but that's kind of because of their quarterback play. Like the rest of the team looks pretty solid. They got a good defense. They got a good offensive line. What about a team like the Chargers if they get healthy? Like how competent are them? The Jags took a major step back. We just beat the Steelers. Like I'd say if you ask me right now, the best team without a doubt is the Kansas City Chiefs, which is disgusting to say because it felt like we were finally getting past this whole Chiefs nonsense. And here we are right back in the thick of it again. And then the second best team, not to take chalk, but it's probably the Indianapolis Colts. Like it just is. And you're 6-1 and you're got a 92-point differential. You're on a 3-game win streak. You're 4-0 at home. Like those are good. That's a good team. That's a good team. And then there's that giant class. The third team, if you ask me who the third best team in the AFC is, I'd say probably the Buffalo Bills, just because they do have Josh Allen. That defense has a lot of questions. The coach has some questions, but I don't know, man. Josh Allen and the Bills, I ain't gonna write them off. Stone, who do you think the best teams in the AFC are?
Yeah, I think for me at this point there are 3, and you touched on all 3 of them. Look, I mean, you can look at the records, but I don't know if the records necessarily always tell the full story. I think the Kansas City Chiefs are the best team in professional football right now. I don't like saying that. I know everybody watching this show does not like hearing me say it either, but especially with Rashee Rice coming back, they were able to get him the football. He had 2 scores. And the knock on Kansas City over the past few years is that, their offense isn't really that dynamic. Yeah, they have Mahomes, but who's he going to throw to? Now you sit around and look around and you go, okay, you got Rashee Rice. He's back. Xavier Worthy, he's borderline gadget guy, but he's pretty good. Kelsey still shows up in big moments and on third down. Noah Gray, the backup tight end, he's good. Juju, he stinks everywhere else, but in Kansas City, he's pretty productive. And Hollywood Brown kind of gives you that threat, that speed guy that can run down the football field there as well. So I don't love saying it. I think the Chiefs are the best team in the NFL right now. They're clearly a contender. The Colts are for real, as you mentioned. Sometimes it's hard for us to wrap our head around the fact that Daniel Jones is playing good football right now, but that's just the reality of the situation. I think the Colts.
I was a Danny Dimes guy
at Duke or at the beginning of his career.
Beginning of his career, I was a Danny Dimes guy.
Yeah. Yeah, I was not, and I think a lot of us got to eat crow there because clearly he seems like he's a good quarterback at this point. I think Indianapolis for a while they've been a really good team. They were just missing a quarterback. They were a quarterback away. Did I think Daniel Jones was going to be the guy? Absolutely not, but clearly he is. They look like a team that's going to win that division and probably win a playoff game or two as well. And then another team that I'm really, really high on right now is the New England Patriots. I think they're the real deal. I think they could 100% contend with Buffalo. to win the East. Drake May is kind of, last year everyone was, Bo Nix and Caleb Williams and Daniels and Penix even. And it's like, here comes Drake May out of that quarterback class. He's really, really good. There's some receivers that he's making look good. Kayshon Boutte, I think a lot of people thought he was a bust. He's kind of bursting onto the scene. And the fact that the Tennessee Titans fired Mike Vrabel is just an absolute atrocity because that guy clearly is a top, 10 coach in the National Football League. So I think the Patriots are for real. Those are my top 3 right now. But Buffalo with Josh Allen, if he can stay healthy, they're obviously going to be a threat as well. But those 3 for me kind of have separated themselves from the rest of the pack at this point.
It's funny. Everett in our chat right now is like blasting me for because people are glazing the Chiefs because they're 3-3 and they don't have a good win. They're 4-3 or whatever it is. They don't have a good win. My favorite thing that I haven't been on this show every single day since its inception, but back in 2023 I was on every day. I'm on every single day here. And my favorite thing is when the chat or when I remember I did this with Tom and Elliot, I was telling you guys hey, this Chiefs team, they're pretty good. And you guys continuously tell me it's the easiest take in the world. You guys are telling me the Chiefs aren't good. And I'm just telling you, they're probably going to be good because they made the AFC Championship game every single year. Let's play a game. And I feel like we do betting odds too much here. But AFC odds to win the AFC, let's see if you can do it in order. Who's the betting favorite?
Kansas City.
Who's the second favorite?
Buffalo.
Who's the third favorite? You're 2 for 2.
Does Vegas believe in the Colts?
Colts are 3. Who's 4?
4.
See how far you can go before getting one wrong.
I'm going to get aggressive here and say to win the AFC. I want to say Baltimore just because I know Vegas is high on them still. I'm going to hold off for now, and I'm going to say the Broncos.
Broncos are 4.
Okay.
We got a tie for 5th.
Tie for 5th. Are the Ravens in there?
Ravens are one of them.
Okay.
I'm going to keep doing this till you get one wrong.
All right. And
who are they tied with?
The other one is definitely the Chargers.
No. Okay. That's
Patriots?
Patriots. Then the Chargers were next.
Okay.
Then the Chargers were next. The Bengals are 80-1 to win the AFC.
Good value there.
80-1. There's 3 more teams between the Bengals and where we were. It was the Steelers, the Jags, and the Texans would be the next few teams on that list. But that was a fun little game. All right, next question around the league.
Yeah, here we go. Question number 2 as I get it pulled back up here. Biggest surprise this season to this point? I think there's been a few. I think there's a few obvious answers here. I know we just touched on a couple right there as our favorite teams in the AFC, but who do you think it is if you got to pick one?
One more time. Sorry, I was reading over the chat.
Yeah, it's tough to do both, isn't it?
It is.
People are always
biggest
banging
surprise
on
this season.
Yes.
Biggest surprise this season. I'd say actually the biggest surprise this season is the Baltimore Ravens. I know they've dealt with they've dealt with Lamar being out for a few games, but if you would have asked anyone with a Lamar, and he's missed 3 games, 3 of their first 6 games. If you would have said Lamar misses 3 games, 3 of their first 6 games, what's their record? The worst someone would say is 2-4. And that's knowing that they played a tough schedule. That's knowing this team, and how important Lamar Jackson is this team. The lowest someone would say is 2-4, and they're 1-5. It's been a major surprise. If you would have asked a lot of smart people around that talk about this for a living, that are really have their ear to the floor when it comes to the NFL, they would have told you. A lot of them would have said my favorite roster coming into this year, behind maybe the Eagles, is the Baltimore Ravens. They would have been in top 3 rosters if you constructed going into this year. And here they are sitting 1-5, and they are a big favorite against a 4-2 Chicago Bears team, but it's already feeling like it's too tall of a task for them to get back in it. So my biggest surprise this year is the Baltimore Ravens, who we always talk about here in Cincinnati, how big of a hole we dug ourselves over the last few years when we started 1-3 each of the last 2 years. We started 0-2 in the second year that we went to the AFC. It feels like we're always digging ourselves a hole. We've never dug a 1-4 hole, a 1-5 hole. We were 4-8 last year. We were 4-8. That's actually a pretty comparable hole. But 1-5. That's just tough to come back from. The Baltimore Ravens are my biggest surprise in the NFL this season. Yours?
Yeah, I got to totally agree with you there. I thought they were going to be a lock playoff team. I thought they were going to be a lock to win the AFC North, even with, my bias in play there with the Cincinnati Bengals. You could argue, the Colts are, a shock. I think that's really just because none of us believed in Daniel Jones, as I mentioned last question. Clearly the rest of the roster was there. It was just a matter of getting a competent quarterback. Clearly Shane Steichen has done that. But, yeah, this is crazy from Baltimore that they only have one win at this point and that their defense is so bad, right? I mean, just seeing a defense get gashed like that in purple and black just doesn't register, right? I know guys like Ray Lewis and Ed Reed and Terrell Suggs haven't played for a really long time, but some of those core values and principles I think have kind of carried over through this next generation. Those are completely gone here for Baltimore because that defense is soft and they don't tackle well and they're not forcing a ton of turnovers either. So, yeah, it's a big one for them, must win against the Bears. But if they take care of the Chicago Bears, I think when you look at the kind of the betting odds to win the North and Baltimore's still favored, this is kind of why, because if they get through Chicago, then you get Miami, Minnesota, Cleveland, and the Jets, and the Bengals twice. I mean, that's a pretty favorable schedule there for Baltimore if Lamar can come back. But, yeah, I've been completely shocked at their performance at this point.
I saw someone just in the chat talking about because we would talk about the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes. I think it was Alex Wallace said, who's more annoying, Shohei Ohtani or Patrick Mahomes? And I was like, golly, guys. They're two. I mean, Shohei Ohtani might be the best athlete we've ever seen, and we're gonna hate on my guy. We're gonna hate on my guy, and that doesn't register in my brain at all. And Patrick Mahomes, I mean, he's annoying. All the penalties, all the complaining's annoying. But when he does those backyard plays, as a football fan, it's kind of fun to watch. It's kind of fun to watch. All right, that's my take on it. All right, next around the NFL question.
What is the best division in the National Football League?
So I think one of the bigger surprises of the division is they're not the best. The AFC South, I think, has been kind of a surprise this year and it's mostly because of the Colts. Like, I think we're seeing some cracks in how good the Jags are. Obviously, the Texans aren't that good, but I mean, if you would have asked people before the year started, they probably would have been out of the 8 divisions, you would have said that's the 7th best division. Like, that's the second worst division in the AFC South. And they've shown between the Colts and the Jags and still a Texans team, that's still pretty comparable. But it's pretty clearly the NFC North. No, like, it's pretty, like, there's not a bad team in it. Like, when your worst team is either the Minnesota Vikings or Ben Johnson's Chicago Bears, like, those are good teams. The NFC North has to be the best division because they've got 2 true Super Bowl contenders in the Green Bay Packers. I know they look mediocre, but they're still 4-1. The Detroit Lions are 5-2. The Bears are 4-2, and the Vikings are 3-3 with a backup quarterback. Like, it's pretty clearly the NFC North. No.
Yeah, I think maybe you could argue the NFC West, but the Cardinals are pretty bad. Wouldn't surprise me if 3 teams got out of the West. The Niners continue to win despite all their injuries, but I think there's concerns about how long they can realistically continue to compete. It's you can only do the next man up for so long, right? But the Rams are real and the Seahawks are real as well. That's a young defense that flies around. They're athletic. They make plays. McDonald's doing a great job here in his second year. But yeah, I think the answer is the North. Green Bay, I think the world of. Detroit, there was questions coming into the year. How would they, fare with replacements at the coordinator spot? They got the break speed off in week 1 against Green Bay, but ever since that, they have been really, really good. They lost to the Chiefs. Okay, a lot of people lose to Mahomes, Andy Reid, and the Kansas City Chiefs. I think O'Connell, he's so good that it feels like Minnesota's going to figure out a way to get some wins. That's a good roster, but they don't have a quarterback, right? Wentz kind of went back to throwing interceptions. Mm-hmm. I don't think necessarily they're better with J.J. McCarthy. I personally think he's a bust, so they have to figure out that quarterback spot. The Bears are winning games against bad teams, but they're not a playoff team. Let's be completely real here. Yeah, I think the world of Ben Johnson, but Caleb Williams, he still misses the layups. There's wide open guys that are schemed up by Johnson, and he can't hit them. And I think on the sideline, you can sometimes see that frustration there.
Stock.
What's up?
I'll buy your Bears.
You want to buy it? Okay.
I'll buy it. If you're selling
I never
it,
had it. I don't got nothing to sell. I never had it. But
okay.
Yeah,
I'll buy it. I'll buy it.
But I think the top of that division kind of holds them down. You could debate if you wanted to the NFC West, but I'll agree with you and say the North.
Well, I think also if the Chargers get healthy, the AFC West is up there as well. I think they've got some. I think the Broncos, even though Bo Nix hasn't played well, really good roster. I think the Kansas City Chiefs are the best team in the league, and I think the Chargers, if they get everyone healthy, or at least most of their team healthy, that's a very. That's a good quarterback, that's a good coach, it's a good offensive line, it's a good defensive line. Like it's a pretty solid team. Now the Raiders are about. I think they're about worse than anyone expected. I think the Raiders are worse than most people thought they'd be with Pete Carroll. I thought they would take a major step forward, and they look pretty bad. So around the league, I think we've got one more?
Two more here. Two more. We talked about him a little bit. Drake May. I'm a big Drake May guy. How sold are you on Drake May?
I'll admit something. I've seen him play one time this year. But he impressed me to all get out. The comp that people were throwing around Drake May before he came in the league was Josh Allen. And to be fair, he kind of looks a little Josh Allen light, right? He looks like you're getting a whittled down version of a big, talented, strong quarterback with a really good arm that you see some things that need to be polished. You see some things that could get better. But yeah, I think I'm buying Drake May. I think I'm buying it, and poor the rest of those teams in that division, because it felt like they just got bullied by the New England Patriots for years and years and years. And then Bill Belichick, that thing imploded. Tom Brady leaves and like, all right, this reign of terror from the New England Patriots is over. And the Bills were like, we got Josh Allen. We're going to run this thing for the next 15 years. Dolphins and Jets are getting all excited. Jets felt like they were putting together a good roster for a couple years there. And here we are. Right back to the Patriots being in the top of that division. Will they win that division? I don't think so. I just think the Bills will still come out on top of the AFC East. But yeah, Drake May, I'm sold on. I think that he has already proven he's a franchise quarterback. Do I think he'll be elite? Still need to see a little bit more of him. But I'm sold on Drake May at this point as a franchise quarterback. You?
Yeah, I'm all in on Drake May.
You were all in before.
Okay, so I'll kind of explain that. I thought he was going to be solid. So obviously 6 guys were taken in the first round a couple of years ago at the quarterback position. Williams 1, Daniels 2, May 3, and then later in the first round you had Penix, Bo Nix, and J.J. McCarthy. Out of those 6 guys, I thought Bo Nix was going to be the best one in the NFL. I'm not necessarily going to back off that here at this point, although I do think it's pretty evident that Bo Nix has regressed from year 1 to year 2, and then I thought Drake May would be that second guy. Here, I mean, Drake May clearly, and look, Jaden Daniels, like, I'm not writing him off. I'm not writing Caleb Williams off yet, or Penix. I mean, all these guys have been solid, but I think out of that group, I mean, Drake May checks all the boxes. The arm strength is there. The touch on the passes is there. The escapability in the pocket, the leadership at the podium. He just checks every single box, and he looks like a franchise quarterback. He acts like one. He's mature. And, yeah, I think the world of him, and I think you're going to see some great battles over the course of the next few years between Josh Allen and Drake May. And, we're kind of waiting for that, next great quarterback rivalry, right? I remember growing up, everybody talks about Brady and Manning. I'm not going to say it's going to be on that same level, but you even had, like, the Breeze and Manning and the Rodgers and Breeze and
Dalton
Rivers
and Roethlisberger.
Dalton and Roethlisberger. Yeah. So there was plenty good ones. There's a few now in the NFL, but I think we're waiting for that next big one. I think Drake May and Josh Allen over the course of the next several years in the AFC East is going to be great. I'm all in on Drake May.
Yeah, I think he's sold. Final around the league question. I think we touched on it briefly, but we can do it again.
Yeah. Final question here. Do you think the Chicago Bears are good?
Point blank, yeah, I do. I think they've got a really good coach. I think the roster, it's good. It's not great. I think it's good. And I think Caleb Williams is uber talented. He's going to make mistakes. He's going to continue to make mistakes. It seems like there's some discord in the locker room between maybe Ben and Caleb that they may not get around, but he's just got too much talent. And I think Ben Johnson's a good enough coach to overcome the lapses there. Or, he just looks like a bona fide good coach. Now, the Bears were 4-2 to start the year last year, and obviously it all kind of spiraled out of control. But I think the Bears are good. I think the NFC's really, really tough. Like, I guess if you're making me define what is good, is it a playoff team? I think the AFC is really, really tough. There's only 3 wild card spots to go around. But you know what? I'm looking at it, and I think they're going to be right there to the end of the season. I think they're going to be right there to the end of the season. Now they are going to win next Sunday, or they are going to lose next Sunday. Not this coming Sunday, but next Sunday. So that is a dagger. But yeah, I think the Bears are good. I think the Bears are building something there.
I don't. I think Ben Johnson is a great head coach. It's crazy that, I get he wanted to stay in Detroit and continue, calling the plays for them. But, like, we haven't seen, a head coach candidate that good in a long time. You could argue the two of them with him and Vrabel, just incredible that they were on the open market. But, I mean, they're beating up on bad teams. They beat the Saints. Are the Commanders as good as we all thought? No, they beat the Raiders by 1. Congrats. They've got some pieces. They've got some weaponry. It's a solid defense. I fully trust the head coach, but I'm not in on Caleb Williams yet. He is uber talented, as you pointed out, but he misses too many layups. And that can't happen in the National Football League, and he's too reliant on the spectacular, and he hasn't shown to me enough that he can win from within the pocket, and you have to be able to do that in the NFL. So I'm not fully in on him. I mean, they won 4 games in a row in the NFL. It's very, very hard to do, and I think there's some more wins on their schedule, but I don't view them as a playoff team here at this point.
Fair enough. I guess you got to define what is good, and I think they'll, week 18, week 17, week 18, we'll be talking about the Bears still hanging around making the NFC playoffs. And we'll see. All right, it's time for the most popular segment on the show. The most popular segment on the show. It's the mailbag. We open up the DMs. We open up our emails from you guys, and we got some great questions. Once again, we'll do this every single week. So mailbag here, Stoner. Get us going.
All right, here we go. Let's get into our mailbag here to the handsome blonde fellas of Off the Bench. It says fellas, but I think it's got to be fella because I obviously do not have blonde hair.
It's pretty blonde.
I was taking a look at the NFL standings, and I noticed the Carolina Panthers are 4-3. Holy smokes, how is that possible? Seriously, that's my question. Did you have any clue they had a winning record? And that comes in from Pope Leo the 9th.
I had that. I think I had that the wrong way. It's the 4. I think he labeled his name wrong. He labeled his name wrong. Thanks, Pope. Thanks, Leo. Appreciate it. Yeah, yesterday I was working with Casey, and he looked at me, and he's just like, he stared me straight in the eyes, and he just goes, "Did you know?" I was like, "Did I know what?" He's like, "Did you know the Panthers are 4-3?" I was like, no, I didn't believe him. Just point blank, did not believe him. And yeah, you look at it. They've beaten 4 teams that are not very good. Like their wins are the following: a 30-0 win over the Falcons, a win over the Dolphins, a win over the Jets, and a win over the Cowboys. So they haven't been good wins. And man, if they would have beaten that Cardinals team back in week 2, this team would be like, they'd be 5-2 with the 5 worst wins you could get in this league. But I did not believe the Carolina Panthers are 4-3, but here they are, 4-3. They might win 6 games. I would put, if you put me, the Vegas line probably has us at about 6.5, and I'd probably take the under on the Panthers winning 7 games this year. But hey, they're 4-3 midway through the season. So thanks, Pope, and get your number right next time.
Yeah, I had no idea either. I thought they had 3 wins. That's incredible. I think we might see the Red Rifle, Andy Dalton, in action if Bryce Young's going to be out with that ankle injury. But, yeah, had no clue. And credit to them, I guess. Rico Dowdle running the football. Got Hubbard back. Canales, I guess, doing his job as the coach. So we'll see. We'll see. Dear OTB, the Phillies and Nick Castellanos' marriage is coming to an end. Costi had some of his best years in a Reds uniform. Do you think this is a name that the Reds should target in the offseason? And this comes in from none other than Oprah Winfrey. I did not know she was a fan of the show.
Neither did I. That's awesome. Yeah. When a media legend like Oprah Winfrey watches this show, that's pretty impressive. So thanks Big O for watching this show. Do I think the Reds? I also didn't anticipate that she'd be a Reds fan. I didn't anticipate that one. Do I think the Reds should go after Nick Castellanos? That opinion might be in Reed's top 5 later. Nick Castellanos did have some of his best years, and he was a fan favorite. I think someone in our Discord put up that there was a billboard that was sold after the Reds didn't bring back Nick Castellanos a couple years ago. That was the turning point for Reds fans, and let me tell you, he had a great. You look at his Phillies career; it was fantastic. The Reds really missed out there. I'll save my take for if the Reds should bring back Nick Castellanos for a little bit later. But man, he had some really, really thick years there in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Stone.
Shoot, yeah, I'm open for it. I mean, it was awesome here. He brought a electricity and an energy to the city that, the city of Cincinnati had been starving for. I sense some sarcasm there. I don't have his numbers right in front of me, but clearly he did not, tear the cover off the baseball. Not to put you on the spot here, but do you have a guess on how much he's going to sign for?
He's 33 years old. I mean, guess what his WAR was in 4 years? His total WAR, B-WAR, for the Phillies, 4 years.
I have no clue.
1.
Okay.
Which is what like Santiago Espinal was last year. It's terrible, I guess is what I'm saying. He had multiple negative WAR seasons. But he's still his OPS plus his last 2 years, not this year, but in 2023 and 2022 was over 100. Like he was still hitting the ball at a 250 clip. He just doesn't walk. The power has seemingly gone away. He can still hit the ball out of the park here in Cincinnati a little bit. But I truly do not know. I'd imagine someone would give him some money, like significant money, like we're talking 10 million plus, but he's certainly not even worth that. So,
okay. Yeah, I think maybe I just need to get hip to all the advanced baseball stats there. I mean, I'm like, what did he hit? How many bombs did he hit? How many did he drive in? How many games did he play? Like, I mean, when you start talking about WAR and OPS plus, I'm just I need to do a little bit more research. I'm not saying that I think those stats are ridiculous. I don't. I just can't sit here and have a great conversation.
So okay, in 2024, he hit 23 home runs, drove in 86 runs, batted .255, which all on the outside, that's pretty decent, right? That's good even. That's a good hitter. That's a solid hitter. But because he only got on base 31% of the times at a 311 on base percentage, and his slugging percentage was .430, which is okay. Like his OPS, which typically the league average is around like 750. I think in the previous years, just because pitching's getting so good, it's going down even further. His OPS was 740. So like he just doesn't get on base nearly enough.
He's not walking at all.
Yeah, he's walked in his 4 years. He walked 140 times with the Phillies. Yeah. Over the last 6 years, he's walked 190 times. So yeah, he's just not getting on base. He's in point blank, he's causing too many outs.
Yeah.
I've said this before. Everyone thinks runs are the currency of baseball. Outs are the currency of baseball. He's causing too many outs. So that's why. And he plays god awful defense. Like he's
right.
As a DH, he could be somewhat productive, but anything outside of that, not good enough.
Has he accepted the fact that he should be a DH now? I know there was some controversy there in Philadelphia about, with Rob Thompson wanting him, to just be a bat. Castellanos thinking he could still play the field.
Well, the problem with the Phillies is they put their eggs in the basket of too many bad outfielders. Like, obviously, Kyle Schwarber was there, too, and Nick Castellanos and Kyle Schwarber in your outfield, the pitchers aren't going to be very happy.
Right.
So one of those guys have to DH, and Schwarber, Castellanos is a little more athletic than Kyle Schwarber, so you throw Casty out there. But I don't know. Some of these guys they get too offended. Like as a Cubs fan, like Seiya Suzuki got offended that he had to DH this year, and it's like, Seiya, you're dropping fly balls in important games, my brother. Like we can't have you out there doing that. We need a better outfielder. So it's just funny that some of these guys get offended that they are asked not to play the field when they play the field, it's not good. Like, it's not good. Like, you're not good at it. And so that's why we're not putting you out there. All right, next mailbag.
All right, we'll revisit Costi in a couple of minutes. Off the bench, C.J. Stroud is really struggling. 2 years ago, I thought this guy was going to not only be a franchise quarterback, but one of the best in the league. Though, to be fair, his line is bad, and the play calling is too. Do you think C.J. is bad, or does he get a pass because of the situation that he is currently in? P.S. Please take me back, Nicole. And this comes from Keith Urban, of course, talking about his ex-wife, Nicole Kidman.
Oh, Keith. That's sad. That made me sad. That P.S. really made me sad. I hope you get her back. Hope you get her back, Keith. Maybe write a song. Maybe write a little song to bring back Nicole. Man, that
somewhere in my car. Yeah,
that breaks my heart a little bit. Yeah, I don't know what the heck's going on with the Texans, to be honest with you. Obviously, their line's bad. C.J. Stroud doesn't look like himself. Listen, I know I'm the Ohio State guy. I know I take jabs at Ohio State guys all the time, and it's fun, and I do it in jest. But I think we all, you guys watching that are all Ohio State fans, me, and I know we got on his, when the wind was going, like, oh, the C.J. Stroud guy. He has not looked himself. He has not looked himself. Like, he was making major plays, big league throws his first season in the league when they went 10-7. Even last year, there were some moments where you're like, this dude still has it. This year, it's gone. And the line's bad. What's their OC's name? Bobby Slowick?
So I led you astray there. That's my bad. He got fired, so it's a different guy.
Okay,
but,
so Bobby Slowick did get fired.
Yeah.
Okay, so that just shows you, because people were wondering, like, man, what happened to this offense? They put a lot of weapons around him. That was all offseason, right? Everyone's like, this Texans team's going to take the AFC by storm. They got Stephon Diggs and Joe Mixon, and Joe Mixon hasn't played this year. Stephon Diggs is no longer there. He's in New England. But yeah, I don't know. This Texans team, which looked primed to be a contender in the AFC for years to come throughout C.J. Stroud's entire rookie contract, isn't the case. And by the way, like, that rookie contract, he's got, 2 more years after this year? This is his 3rd year in the league. So you got 2 more years before you got to pay him big boy money. And is he going to be worth big boy money? Like, I think you still are confident enough based off what you saw year 1 to be like, all right, he deserves a big contract. But those big contracts are $60 million now. Is he worth $60 million? I don't know what the alternative is, but it's alarming, to say the least, what's going on down there in Houston. Like, there's some serious questions. He's got a lot of time to figure it out. He's got the rest of this year, 2 more years before you start be like, all right, yeah, we can give this guy $60 million. But that's what he's going to call for, and I'll tell you right now, the way he's playing right now, you can't do that. You can't do that. Your thoughts on C.J. Stroud and the Houston Texans offense?
Yeah, it's surprised me as well. I thought he was going to lead them to a division championship this year. I get the offensive line is bad. I don't think it's as bad as it was last year, but he doesn't look like he's trusting anything he sees out there. He's making some bad mistakes. He did such a great job at taking care of the football his rookie year. And I don't know. I think you got to watch C.J. Stroud very carefully throughout the remainder of this year and next year before you make a decision about, what you're going to do. I think I tend to agree with you here. I think you're leaning towards probably still keeping him around. But, again, these days in the NFL, you want to pay a guy, you got to break the freaking bank in order to do it and give him some record deal. And he certainly does not deserve that. I'm not going to say he's a bust. He's shown that he can still play good football. But these past 2 years have been bad, and there's some pieces around him, and there's some guys there on defense. Texans should be a lot better than they are right now, and they've been a massive, massive disappointment this year. Final question, Deer, Stone, and Reed, or whoever is hosting today.
Yep.
Do you think the Blue Jays will make this a competitive World Series? I'm tired of seeing one giant with all the money win over and over again. Even though they're from a major city, it feels like it's David versus Goliath. I want to see the little guy rise up and win once. And this comes in, we've got all kinds of people tapped into our show. Jeff Bezos.
Yeah, Jeff Bezos, known for wanting to see the little guy rise up and one guy and one person with all the money spreading around. Yeah, that's what he's known for, and I appreciate his take here. And it is tiring seeing the Los Angeles Dodgers. They've leaned into this villain role. When you start winning in any league, regardless of who you are, you can be the Los Angeles Dodgers spending all the money. You could be the New York Yankees spending all the money and bringing in all the guys. Or you can be the Kansas City Chiefs from little Kansas City, the major media market that is Kansas City, and people will still hate you because you know why? You're winning. And people have a tend to be jealous. And I get it, understand it, and it gets annoying. Like they'll always find a way to tear you down when you're up at the top. But I will admit that it does stink to see the Dodgers. You felt like they had some cracks in that team going into the postseason, because I think they finished with 92 wins, which I think was, if anyone was, I would bet you that they were as far off as anyone from their preseason win prediction, because they probably were projected to win like 107 games, 108 games, and they won 92 or 93, one or the other. And so they missed by 15 games, and you're like, oh, this team, they're not what they thought they were. Then you realize this team, the Los Angeles Dodgers, kind of treated Major League Baseball this season like those previous eras of the NBA, where you're making the postseason, so you're not going to like really work hard in the regular season that much. Like, they were constantly folding new pitchers in and out to where they knew they were good. They could sleepwalk to 90 wins, and they didn't have to worry about getting Blake Snell 170 innings. They didn't have to worry about throwing 150 innings from Shohei Ohtani. They didn't have to worry about Roki finding it. They didn't have to worry about those things. They just had to get them ready for the postseason, and here they are. They got ready for the postseason, and they've dominated. They have dominated. They've lost, one game in the postseason? Yeah, they went to game 4 in the NLDS. So they are 5-9. They are 9-1 in 10 postseason games. Quick math. Hopefully that's right. 9-1 in 10 postseason games. And this Blue Jays team, we consider them not one of the major markets, but Toronto is as big of a city as any city in the U.S. besides Los Angeles and New York. Like, it's a major city, and they've got an entire country behind them. Like, they have money to spend. It's not like this is plucky Tampa or the Kansas City Royals. Like, this is a major market, but it does feel like it's David versus Goliath. And I hope it is a competitive series. I hope that it at least puts a little bit of stress, because I'll tell you right now, already it's super loud about what's going on in Major League Baseball with what the Dodgers are doing and the Mets are doing, spending money like crazy. It will only get louder if they walk right into this World Series and take care of them in 4 games. Also, shout out to Shohei Ohtani. He's the greatest athlete the world's ever seen. And I get that the Dodgers are annoying, but man, as a baseball guy, it's hard to hate against that guy. It's hard. It really is. I mean, it's amazing what he does. Do you think this is a competitive series?
I do. Yeah, I haven't been this excited about a World Series since probably 19 Astros Nationals. I think it's going to be a good series. I think it's going 6 or 7 games. I think the Blue Jays can hit, right? I think obviously it comes down to kind of the starting pitching, right, in this game, or the series rather. And the Dodgers are pitching incredible, right? I mean, Ohtani is they're 4. Like, I mean, come on, that's just ridiculous. But this Jays lineup is real, top to bottom, and they won the series against Seattle because of that 7, 8, 9 in their order. Those guys getting on and moving guys over, and they did some bunting last night that I think certainly helped them win the football or win the the baseball game there. Tito Francona is certainly very proud of that. But I absolutely think this is going to be a series. I picked the Blue Jays to win the World Series before the playoffs, so maybe I'm just kind of holding on to that. But, I think this is I was really hoping Toronto would win because I think they can give the Dodgers a better fight. And, I'm expecting this thing to go 6 or 7 games.
Did I tell you my Blue Jays manager story?
No.
So I was down in Tampa. My buddy got married down in Tampa, and I got there a day early because he's a big golfer. I'm not a huge golfer, but I was like, I'm down in Florida. I'll bring my clubs. And he took me out to one of his coworkers' country clubs there in the Tampa area. I forget what it was called, to be honest with you. But we're sitting around. We're having a good time. Drinks are flowing, everything's like that. And all of a sudden we get like on the 14th tee box, and the guy that we're playing with goes, "Hey, I got to see something. There's this couple." I've told this story off the bench before, but I guess I'm just telling it to you, Stone. Yeah. There's this couple that's in the pool of one of these houses right next to the thing. It's like 2 p.m, and they got Blue Jay stuff everywhere. And the guy goes, "Hey, what's with the Blue Jay stuff?" Just asked them as they're just hanging out on the patio. And they go, "Oh, I work for the Blue Jays." And he goes, "Oh, what are you doing?" He knew, like he thought he knew that this guy was the manager. And he goes, "Oh, what do you do? Like, you work in the front office or something like that? What are you, a scout?" What is? He's like, "No, I'm one of the I'm a coach." "Oh, for like AAA, AA?" He's like, "No, the big boy team." And it was just John Schneider with his wife having a little pool day, and they were playing Tampa Bay that day. And I guess they had a house down there in Tampa on this golf course, but they were just hanging out for that day, and they're getting ready to take on the Rays. And that was really cool. So we sat and talked to John Schneider for like 2 minutes. 3 minutes. Yeah, he
seems like a great guy.
Yeah, he was a big burly guy. Like, he seems like a big burly jolly guy.
Yeah,
and that was pretty neat. That was pretty cool. So good luck to the Blue Jays. Hopefully they make this a true series. I think it's going to be a gentleman's sweep. It's my take on it. I think it's going to go about 5 games. If you had me guess how this one's going to go, I think it's a gentleman's sweep, 5 games. Dodgers win it, and they are the fourth National League team to go back-to-back, joining the 1907-1908 Cubs, the 1921-1922 New York Giants, and the 1975-1976 Cincinnati Reds. 4th team to win from the National League to win back-to-back World Championships. All right, that was the mailbag. Thank you, everyone, for getting into for our mailbag. The DMs are always open. Just slide right in and keep going. Obviously, Keith Urban, Oprah Winfrey, Pope. We're all in the DMs this week, so we appreciate their questions. They're great. Now the final segment on the show is Reed's top 5.
Mm.
I used to do this back when Tom hosted and sometimes when Kenner and different people hosted. I would do a Reed's top 5, and it's a very serious segment. It's very, very serious. True opinions. This is what I truly believe. And it is, this week, is on the top 5 acquisitions that I think could help the Reds in 2026. So without further ado, the final segment of the show today, Reed's top 5, coming in at number 5.
Kyle Schwarber.
Yep, Kyle Schwarber is, I think, we talked with Kirby last week, and there is a lot of positive moment. The thing that I saw Jeff Passan talking about this, and the thing that's really exciting about Kyle Schwarber is that he is a big marquee name that everyone wants. But it's one of the few guys that like the mid-market teams can get because he is 33, because he is a designated hitter. He's not going to get that 10-year contract, that 8-year contract. He's going to more than likely get a 4 to 5-year contract. And obviously he has ties to Cincinnati. He's from Middletown, has a home here. I don't know how often he's there, but he has a home here in town. So I think there's a lot of ties, and he obviously on a team that was lacking offensive presence last year. Schwarber can drastically improve that lineup. And it'd be interesting to see if he could get into the 60 home run sphere here at Great American Ballpark. I know that's a tall task. That's huge. But, I mean, if you're hitting 55 in Philadelphia, you could probably get close to that here in Great American Ballpark. So Kyle Schwarber, who I think is number 5. And just think about it. If that's who's number 5, who are the 4 guys ahead of Kyle Schwarber? So without further ado, number 4 is Nick Castellanos. So here's what I'm saying. He was a fan favorite. He had a little spunk to him, got in the face of opposing teams, still has a decent stick, doesn't play great defense, doesn't walk a whole lot, doesn't hit for a whole lot of power, but don't worry about any of that. Just go ahead and give him $25 million a year, because you know why? Because he's got the vibes, man. He's got the vibes for this Reds team and can really make this lineup an all-star lineup. So I have Nick Castellanos coming in number 3. And coming in number 4. Before we get to number 3, similar to Kyle Schwarber, you can sit here and wonder, like, what could this team really use? Like, what does Kyle Schwarber bring? He brings a guy that is a left-handed batter, that's got some pop in the stick, and that takes a lot of walks. But obviously, Kyle Schwarber is going to cost a whole lot of money. So who has a little pop in the stick, takes a lot of walks, and would be a lot cheaper coming in at number 3? Let's run it back. Let's run it back with Joey Votto. Joey Votto, bring back the legend here to Cincinnati. Why not? I think there's still some more for him to play. Who cares? Who cares what that final year was like? And who cares that he tried to make it for the Blue Jays and couldn't make it? Who cares? I mean, you want to sell some tickets? Bring back the Hall of Famer, and you just restart the clock on him making the Hall of Fame, and he can make a legacy. Put Joey Votto over there. Still probably has a decent glove. Joey Votto would make this, I mean, golly, a left-handed bat, sees a lot of pitches. Joey Votto coming in at number 3. So before we get to number 2, there's a couple guys I floated in around this number 2 spot. And the reason I came to this guy was you needed, I think there's going to be a need for, former all-star, middle infielder. Obviously, Ellie De La Cruz is the centerpiece of this team, but there's some questions with his glove. Matt McClain had a god-awful season. And you just need someone that's been an all-star, that's been around the league, that the city knows pretty well, that can, provide something with the bat maybe too still. So coming in at number 2, Chatterbox fan, Zach Cozart. We bring home Zach Cozart. Has he played in 6 years? Nah. But I think he's still got something to give. You could put him at shortstop, put him at second base, and Matt McClain needs a day off. Ellie needs a day off. You throw Ellie out in the outfield. I don't know. But he's an all-star. Former all-star. Let's get Zach Cozart home. Let's bring him in. I'm being serious here. So we talked about a right-handed bat, a middle infielder, 2 different left-handed bats. But what's the one thing that all Reds fans know they need? If you asked Reds fans, you can change one thing about this organization, it would be they need a new owner. And why new? Coming in at number 1, the biggest acquisition that the Reds can make this year is Mark Schott. We get a new owner here in Cincinnati, and this team's, a former world championship owner, Mark Schott. Bring Mark Schott to own the Cincinnati Reds once again. Stone, what did you think about my top 5 list?
Very serious, very entertaining, and the first 2, I'm in on that. And I was thinking, by the way, watching that Dodgers series, watching the Reds get waxed by LA, like, dang, it'd be cool to just see Joey out there, right? I'm serious. Not like, let's, if he was still here and in that series. I mean, the guy's a legend. You said it. That was the biggest takeaway out of the whole segment was that you admitted he's a Hall of Famer, and he is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Joey Votto's a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, no doubt.
If Joey Votto's not in the Hall of Fame, we gotta rethink this whole Hall of Fame thing.
Yeah.
That's my opinion. The only reason that he wouldn't be deemed bona fide Hall of Famer is because he didn't play for the Dodgers or he didn't play for the Yankees. He played for Cincinnati here, where they never really had success. They had a couple years for early on in his career, but Joey Votto will get into the Hall of Fame someday. Simply will. He was too amazing of a hitter. Did you ever hear that story? I'm going to butcher the story. So never mind. I'm not going to tell it. Reed's top 5 coming back. Maybe we'll do one next week too. They're normally Reds related, but I had fun. Here on Off the Bench. I will not be here for the rest of the week. I got to go down to Louisville tomorrow morning and work for the rest of the week, but I will be back next week. Thank you guys so much for having me here today. Stone, thank you so much for being a great producer today.
Oh, yeah.
Be my teacher today. What would you give you this show a grade of?
Oh no, that's A- at the worst. That was a solid show. I mean, you're coming in here. You've been busy all weekend. It's it's not like you got the full week here. It's just one show here this week. You came in and you lived up to the expectations. I thought it was tremendous. It was an honor.
Yeah. Well, thanks for being my producer today. Yeah. It was fun to be goofy again. Stone Shield Show coming up here right now. Stone, have a great show. Thank you so much. I'll be sure to tune in as I do every single day. Off the Bench back tomorrow. I think it's gonna be Stone and Casey. Is that the plan?
We'll see if Casey comes in. Yeah.
All right. Stone and we'll get you some guests. We'll get you lined up with some guests to help ease it off going forward. Yeah. Off the Bench. Be back later on this week. Stone Shield Show coming up right now.
All right, here we go. It's the Stone Shield Show. Welcome in here on a Tuesday. Appreciate everybody hanging out with us here this morning, sticking around from off the bench. Reed Mouse, great to have him back in the studio here this morning. Not exactly sure what things are going to look like throughout the course of the week, tomorrow, Thursday, and Friday. Don't know if we'll do 2 hours, if I'll do off the bench, and then my show, if we'll just do my show at 10 o'clock. We're still working through the details there, but we will have content throughout the rest of the week there as well, live content live here on our channel, but plenty of stuff to discuss on today's show. We'll talk a little bit about the Bengals and the Jets. Could this perhaps be a trap game for Cincinnati? Certainly checks off all the boxes, in my opinion, of a potential trap game here in the NFL. We'll go through our NFL power rankings as we do each and every Tuesday here at the show. We've got shake up at the top, as we seemingly have each and every week. I know some people are going to be rather ticked off about who I have at the number one spot here in my NFL power rankings, but my team that was number one lost last night, and they didn't look very good in the process, and they had guys get banged up in that game. That, of course, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Also, for the first time here on the show, we're going to be talking NBA. We've got our NBA kind of 2025 preview here at the Stone Shield Show. And look, we're going to be talking basketball there as well. Obviously, it's football season. Everyone's excited about the football season. We want to continue talking about the football season, but we're going to sprinkle in some NBA action because the season tips off tonight, and we got two really good games on NBC and Peacock. The Rockets taking on the defending champion Oklahoma City Thunder, and then Lakers-Warriors is the late game after that. No LeBron James, but that should still be a terrific game. Terrific opening night in the NBA. We'll do our preview. We'll kind of break through 10 teams that I think have an opportunity to compete for a championship. And, we'll kind of break through those 10 teams and kind of go from there. Also, Monday Night Football, 2 games last night. By the way, back to the NBA real quick. Not going to have our full predictions yet. We'll probably do that later in the week. I'm just going to be breaking down a list of teams here on the show. But Monday Night Football, 2 games last night. The Lions, it was one of our best bets of the week. Minus 5.5. They're at home. It just was weird, right? The Bucs are like the best team in the NFL, but you had a 5.5 point spread, and I think it ended up going up to 6.5. By the time kickoff rolled around, but clearly Vegas knew what was up, and we took that gift there from Vegas as the Lions covered that game. No problem. Lions are a real threat, especially when they're playing at home. I mean, the atmosphere in Detroit was kind of jumping through the TV set, to be completely honest with you. That was an electric environment, and they're kind of a different team there at home. Gibbs, man, is just absolutely electric. Kind of feels like here in the NFL, still a passing league, still have to win with elite quarterback play and head coaching. I get that, but running backs are becoming a little bit more prevalent, I think, certainly this year, maybe even last year, and we'll see if that continues over the course of the next few years. But the Lions certainly check that box, as Gibbs one of the most electric players in the National Football League. Game 7 was a banger last night. The Blue Jays and the Mariners. Toronto comes back, gets the victory at home. George Springer, he's the hero, 3-run shot to give him the lead, and the bullpen was able to slam the door. Jeff Hoffman, of all people, former Cincinnati Red, comes in, gets the final 3 outs, gets the save, and that sets up, in my opinion, what's going to be a tremendous World Series. I don't think I've been this excited about a World Series since kind of like 2019, like Nationals-Astros. Like it's been a while since I've been this fired up. I think I don't have the odds in front of me right now. I would imagine the Dodgers are heavy favorites, and I think there's some people out there nationally that aren't really giving the Blue Jays a shot. But I certainly don't believe that it's the case. I mean, the Blue Jays can hit, man, and they've got solid pitching as well. Certainly doesn't contend necessarily with the starters that Los Angeles is going to roll out there, but I think this is going to be a tremendous series. The Blue Jays, of course, my pick to win the World Series, so I'm a little bit, biased, I guess, leaning towards them a little bit. But even bias aside, I think this thing's going 6 games or 7 games. I don't think this is something where the Dodgers are just going to come in, get a sweep or a gentleman's sweep. I think it's going to be a longer series, and it should be tremendous, obviously, there as well. I'm pulling for the Blue Jays. Obviously, a Canada team. I'm a proud American. Don't love doing it, but, I don't think I respect the heck out of the Dodgers, but, I think if the Blue Jays were an American team, I think everybody would be cheering them on. But it's just like, it's Canada, so maybe we'll cheer on the Dodgers. But I'm really just hoping for a good series at the end of the day. And I think we will get it. Well, let's talk Bengals and Jets. Reed mentioned on off the bench, kind of feels like a bit of a trap game for Cincinnati. I totally agree, right? You got the Bears coming up after that. You're coming on the heels of a big win where it feels like your season now all of a sudden it was falling apart at the seams, and now it's sitting right back here in front of you, and it's kind of there for the taking. And if you kind of take care of business, especially in this game, we said going into Pittsburgh, got to be 2-1 going into the bye to have life. Well, you got one down. Now, 3-0 becomes a potential possibility if you're able to take care of the Jets and the Bears there as well. But there's plenty of reason to be optimistic for the Cincinnati Bengals. But would it surprise you in the slightest if they lost this football game? Absolutely not. The Bengals have, had a history of playing down to their level of competition, right? Kind of similar to the Reds this past year, right? Where it's like, you're going down losing games, the teams you shouldn't be losing to, but then competing and potentially winning games when you're underdogs. I think that's really something that's been the case over the past few years, really for the Cincinnati Bengals. So it wouldn't shock me at all if they lost this game, and I'm certainly concerned going into it. The Jets are the worst team in the National Football League. They do not have a win on their schedule. They have, some controversy here at quarterback. I don't think Glenn has committed to a starter yet at this point. I still think he's kind of feeling that out. Do I have a lean as far as who I want it to be? I don't know. There's pros and cons of both. Of course, I'm talking about Tyrod Taylor and Justin Fields. Fields is playing horrendous football. I don't know. It shouldn't really be a surprise to anybody, right? There are some people in Chicago, oh, it's not his fault. He's still okay. Keep him around. It's the coaching. It's the organization. Justin Fields is not an NFL quarterback. That is very, very obvious. Not an NFL starting quarterback, I should say. That is very, very obvious here at this point. But considering the lack of pass rush that Cincinnati generates, Fields is a guy that is very mobile, and he's got great speed. That's one thing he can do really well. I think that gives you some cause for concern, right? The Bengals, of course, in years past have had some issues with running quarterbacks, all right? Most notably Lamar Jackson. If there's a guy that has kind of similar attributes to Lamar Jackson that isn't Jaden Daniels, it would be Justin Fields. Now, he can't win within the pocket. He's not accurate with the football. He can't push the ball down the football field. But from an athleticism standpoint, evading tacklers and just having great speed, he certainly is a threat. So he certainly would present some challenges for Cincinnati if he ultimately is the starter. And then the other option, of course, is Tyrod Taylor. This past week, Justin Fields was benched in the game against Carolina. They had only, they scored 6 points in the game, even throughout the entirety of the game. I think they had like 43 passing yards in the first half, and Aaron Glenn was just kind of caught in a situation like, we got to switch something up here. And sometimes when you go to the backup quarterback, one of two things usually tends to happen. It usually stays just as bad, or the backup provides a spark, and clearly seems like he's going to be the guy going forward. And Tyrod Taylor did not do that. He threw 2 interceptions. They weren't able to generate any offense with him. So, is he going to provide a spark in a game here against Cincinnati? I don't know. He's a wily veteran. Usually he's a little bit more careful with the football. I just saw the 2 interceptions on the stat sheet. I haven't seen them, so maybe, of course, they're not his fault. But I don't really have a massive lean when it comes to, one of these two guys that I would want Cincinnati to have an opportunity to go up against. I think they both present their own challenges, and they both could potentially, be difficult matchups for Cincinnati, considering the state of their defense. And we kind of highlighted it on yesterday's show, right? The eye test, I say it all the time, I'm a big eye test guy. The eye test tells me that they're significantly better on defense than they were last year, but some of the numbers that Paul Dehner Jr. had at The Athletic would suggest otherwise, that this defense, there might even be more of a concern for the defense this year in 2025 here for Cincinnati. And I said it on yesterday's show. We're going to find out a lot about this unit, right? The numbers are bad. They still show up and make some big plays in critical moments. Certainly, I've seen that from DJ Turner over the past 2 weeks. And, we're going to find out here just how bad this defense is. Because if you have Tyrod Taylor or Justin Fields on offense for New York that has been just completely anemic, if they score points against you, you're in a world of trouble here for Cincinnati. But at the end of the day, I think it comes down to what the Bengals do, right? The Jets, it's an NFL football team. They're 0-7, all right? They're chomping at the bit for a victory. They're starving for one. Livelihoods are on the line. Jobs are on the line. All those things are true. But this comes down to the Cincinnati Bengals, right? They have more talent on the football field, despite the fact that their defense is so bad. And if they go out there and play their game and execute and play how they did in the second half against Green Bay or against Pittsburgh, and probably could get away with playing worse than that, but if they go out there and play above average football, they should be able to take care of business in this football game. I have full faith in Zach Taylor that he's going to have them locked in and understand just how how important this is. They're not in a position where they can just try to moonwalk into this game and get a victory, right? They're not in a position where they can sit here and look ahead to the Chicago Bears, a team that I don't think is very good, but they've won 4 games in a row, right? And they've got a really good head coach in Ben Johnson and a second-year quarterback in Caleb Williams, who checks all the boxes as far as talent. He just hasn't been able to put it together here at this point. Bengals can't afford to look ahead. They got to take this game very seriously. They got to go out, and they got to handle business. And when I look at the matchups across the board, right, I mean, it's not really a spot. Even, Cincinnati, they're not a top roster in this league. We all understand that. But when you look at all the matchups that are going to be out there on display in this game, it's not like, well, that's advantage Jets. The Jets are bad pretty much everywhere. And I know people bang on Zach Taylor all the time, and I understand that. I understand the frustration with Zach Taylor, but this is one of the few games on your schedule where you go into this game and I go, oh, you got the better coaching staff. You can outcoach these guys. I don't often think that way, right? Particularly in the division with Harbaugh and Tomlin and just guys that you have faced even along this, stretch of losing. The Lions, the Packers, those are good staffs. The Minnesota's got a great staff. Sean Payton in Denver has a great staff. You haven't really had a game this year where you go into it, besides maybe the Jacksonville game, and they're better than a lot of people anticipated as well, where you think, okay, the Bengals had the better staff. They're going to be better prepared, and they're going to have, they're going to be the more buttoned-up, better coached football team. I feel that way here in this game against the Jets. So, I think, as a fan base and really just for the confidence of the football team, this should be a game where you go in, you score early, you make some stops on defense, and you should feel comfortable throughout the majority of this game. I have faith in Flacco that if it's a fourth quarter back and forth game that they can win it, right? But that shouldn't happen, right? If you're in the business of hoping Joe Burrow comes back so you can really mess around and win some games and get into the playoffs and maybe even win a playoff game or two, you got to prove that you can handle the New York Jets at home coming off a big win. And we'll see if they have the ability to do that. We'll see. The Jets have some injuries there as well. Garrett Wilson didn't play last week. Don't know his status here at this point, but he's their best player, right? Sauce Gardner, probably their second best player. He got banged up in the game there as well last week. So from an injury perspective, you should be in a good spot. All right, but you need to see more out of a lot of different areas of this team. And I think number one would be pass rush, right? This is an offensive line for the Jets that isn't good, right? They haven't been able to generate any offense. Can somebody get home? Now, it feels like Trey Hendrickson's going to be able to go in this game, so that's going to help you out a little bit. But, you're not going to have Trey Hendrickson next year. I've said it a million times on the show. It just ain't going to happen, right? And that's what you got last week, and it was a disaster class on the defensive line, right? Regardless of the rotations that they put in there, Osai, Miles Murphy, Shamar Stewart, I get he's coming back from injury. It's his third NFL game, but he did absolutely nothing in the game against Pittsburgh. By the way, not world beaters there on the offensive line for the Steelers, right? So there's lots of questions that need to be answered. I don't know. I don't have the solution for the defensive line. Obviously, they brought in a new defensive line coach, Jerry Montgomery from the Packers. He's here. Their former defensive line coach obviously is out. That doesn't appear that that's made any significant improvements there as well. So we'll see. You need to see steps in the right direction defensively. And if you can't look decent on defense against the Jets, that's a massive issue because, that's the worst team in the National Football League. And from an offensive perspective, I think you're just looking to kind of build off what you've been doing, right? As a fan, you want to be optimistic and hope that it's just going to look like this with Joe Flacco the rest of the way until they hopefully turn things over to Joe Burrow again at some point. I bet it doesn't really get much better offensively than what you have had these past 3 halves with Joe Flacco. And you hope you can continue that. I know there's some people out there, Reed Mouse included, where he's just kind of holding on for dear life because he thinks it's only a matter of time before Joe Flacco throws a few interceptions. Maybe he's right, but, there hasn't even been one throw since his time as the starter here in Cincinnati where you're even really holding your breath. He's being really careful with the football, making great decisions, but still, pushing the ball down the field to some extent, getting the ball in his playmakers' hands. And you hope to just see more of that from the offense because I truly do believe, and I know Joe Burrow has had, issues with slow starts throughout his time in the NFL to this point. And there are people that wonder, if he comes back for the last 3 games, is it going to be a slow start and they'll drop the first game that he comes back? I get that's a concern. It's a fair concern to have. But, if Chase and Higgins are in rhythm, and that offensive line is kind of holding up a little bit, which they did a better job these past three halves as well. They deserve some credit there along the offensive line. I think Joe Burrow can step in here and look like Joe Burrow pretty quickly, despite coming back from that injury. So I think there's reason to be optimistic if you can continue, just hanging in there on offense, right? I mean, this is a team that is built around offense. And even with your third quarterback, there's an expectation that you should still be able to produce without your franchise and Joe Burrow. And you've seen that over the course of these past three halves. You have some favorable matchups coming up, and it's up to you to avoid the trap game situation. Set the tone early at home. Get the crowd fired up. Get them behind you. Get a couple of stops on defense. Shoot, if you get a couple of first-half turnovers, you're really going to be in the driver's seat. But it's all about showing up, executing, and being ready to play, right? And we're going to find out a lot about Zach Taylor in this game as well. Because this team needs to show up and they need to be ready to go from the beginning of this football game. You can't moonwalk into this game, or sleepwalk, I should say, into this game at home against the Jets and just expect to win. Candidly, you're not good enough. If you have Joe Burrow and you only have 2 losses on the year, maybe you can. But in this situation, you absolutely can't. And you can't afford to lose this game. There's a part of me that thinks this is more of a must-win game than last week, even after you won. Right, because you have this momentum. You just knocked off Aaron Rodgers, the top team in your division. The offense looked exceptional. You had a big primetime win in front of the whole country at home. I mean, this Jets team's bad, right? And if you follow up and lose to them, it kind of feels like it was all for nothing to some degree. So there's an argument that can be made that this feels like even more of a must-win game than last week. We'll see if Cincinnati can do their job, show up, execute, be ready to go, and ultimately step up and win this football game. We'll have more previews, matchup discussion, keys to victory, all that good stuff as the week progresses. But I did want to kind of bring up that trap game narrative because it's the reality of the situation. And I don't think as a fan you should sit here and just assume that Cincinnati's going to win this football game. It's the Jets. They stink, but it's still an NFL football team that's starving for a victory, that's got jobs and livelihoods on the line there as well. Let's get into our power rankings here on today's show. We do it every single Tuesday morning. We do our power rankings, top 10 teams in the NFL. It's been kind of relatively entertaining because we have just such a shakeup seemingly each and every week. I can't remember the last time, a team's been hanging on there at the top spot. The Eagles kind of were holding it down there for a little bit, but we've had massive shakeups as it relates to our top 10. So let's get into it right away. We'll go 10-1 like we always do here on a Tuesday, our NFL Power Rankings. Coming in at the number 10 spot, I have the Buffalo Bills. Look, they didn't play last week. I understand. I had them at 8 last week. They didn't play, and they dropped to 10. That's just kind of sometimes what happens, right? You have other teams that play. They play well. They deserve to get bumped up in the power rankings. Buffalo, as long as Josh Allen is upright, they are going to be a threat, but it kind of feels like, did they miss out on their opportunity a little bit? Past 2-3 years, they've had more of a run game and a better defense. Obviously, weren't able to get over the top and reach a Super Bowl. I don't think as a roster they're nearly as good this year. Less of a run game. The defense certainly has questions all over the place. They lost 2 games against the Falcons and the Patriots. I think the Patriots are really, really good, but the Falcons, I don't know. And they certainly lost that game, and candidly, it wasn't close. I have my questions about the Buffalo Bills, but they belong on this list for the simple fact that they have Josh Allen playing quarterback. Number 9, how about it? The Seattle Seahawks. This is a really good football team, and this looks like a playoff team. Wouldn't surprise me here at this point if 3 teams came out of the NFC West. What a great job John Schneider, their GM, has done drafting on that defense. That defense has been good for quite some time, and they've got young guys on rookie deals flying around, starting, making plays, hitting guys, creating turnovers. That's a really good defense. It's a really good home field advantage there as well when you've got a good football team, which you do. There was questions, of course, about DK Metcalf leaving. Could JSN take over as that wide receiver 1? The answer to that question is yes. He has been terrific for Seattle. Cooper Kupp still has some to offer there as well. They've got kind of 2 backs there with Walker and Charbonnet that offer some help there on the ground. And Sam Darnold, man, sometimes in this league, it's just not going to all be sunshine and rainbows in the beginning of your career. You might have to bounce around, play for a couple of different teams, find the right fit. He burst onto the scene last year in Minnesota, and then he gets the deal that he earned, and he's lived up to it here in Seattle. Should be the quarterback in Vegas. Tom Brady passed on him. And Seattle's certainly very, very happy to have him. I view the Seahawks team that's just going to get better and better and better if they can stay healthy. That defense is real. Fantasy owners out there, if you have the Seahawks defense, they have just produced for you each and every week. And I'm a big fan of Seattle. And my gut tells me right now 3 teams are going to get out of the West and make the postseason. Coming in at number 8, I have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I had them at the number 1 spot last week. Look, I still have belief in the Buccaneers. I think Baker Mayfield's MVP campaign certainly took a hit. He threw the ball like 50 times in the game last night. Struggled. There wasn't a ton of offense there, and that's kind of a concern for me, to be honest with you, because all the backups that were out there for Detroit, Kansas City, Mahomes absolutely torched them, and I thought Baker was going to at least find himself in a shootout in this game, and clearly that was not the case. He was under siege for most of the ball game, and he was getting hit, he was getting off his mark, and they really struggled in the football game. And, look, I've got some concerns there with injuries, right? Mike Evans, he makes his return. I think the world of Mike Evans. He's unbelievable, but I believe it's a collarbone injury. Might cost him the rest of the year. That is very, very significant. Ibuka played in the game last night, but he's clearly not 100%. Godwin's beat up. So a lot of injuries kind of starting to pile up here for Tampa Bay. And to be honest with you, I think Baker's kind of dinged up there as well. So I think that's going to be their biggest question here at this point. They're still going to win their division. I still believe that they're going to, get into the playoffs, obviously, and win a playoff game, but the health is becoming a concern for them, and that's why I have them at the 8th spot. I'm not hitting the panic button for them, but sometimes in this league, you just aren't able to stay healthy, and that can kind of derail your season, and hopefully Tampa Bay isn't heading in that direction here at this point. Coming in at number 7, the Philadelphia Eagles. Oh, they dropped 2 games in a row. The sky's falling in Philadelphia. Leave it to Jalen Hurts to go out there and stabilize the situation on the road against a really good Minnesota defense. He was sensational in the football game. Oh, Jalen Hurts can't throw the ball down the football field. No, he did that. Oh, Jalen Hurts can't throw in between the numbers. Oh, yeah, he did that in the game there as well. Devontae Smith had his best statistical game of his NFL career to this point. A.J. Brown was sensational. And, obviously it was a one-possession ball game. Credit to Minnesota for kind of hanging in there. But that was all without a running game for Philadelphia. That's a team that is predicated on running the football, that is built around offensive line and Saquon Barkley and running the football. That is their identity, and the Vikings were able to stuff that, and Jalen Hurts made them pay. The Eagles, are they as good as last year? Maybe not, right? But they were incredible last year. They're still going to be a playoff team. They are still going to win a playoff game, and they're still going to be a threat to potentially repeat as Super Bowl champions. Give them a lot of credit for bouncing back. Tough spot to play on the road. That's a tough coaching staff they're going up against. Cincinnati Bengals fans obviously know that very, very well, but they pick up a victory there at number 7. The Eagles very much alive and well. 6, Green Bay Packers. By the way, I had the Eagles at 9 last week, so they bump up 2 spots after the victory against the Minnesota Vikings. Packers, I had them at 3 last week, and they won, but I got to drop them down to the 6th spot here. Credit to them for winning the game, and I think Arizona maybe is a little bit stingier than some people give them credit for. But this Packers team, I don't understand why they don't look better out on the football field. Jordan Love, by all accounts, is healthy out there, and I think the world of Jordan Love. And he came up in some clutch moments on 3rd and 4th down, obviously, in the game. Gutsy decision there by LaFleur late to go for it. It works. He trusted his quarterback, and it paid off for him. The running game, hasn't been that great. Josh Jacobs in fantasy, he's putting up big numbers, but it kind of looks like he's lost a step maybe, or just isn't quite as explosive this year as years past. And the defense is good, and Micah Parsons closed out that game against Arizona, but I thought it would be a little bit better. I picked the Packers to go to the Super Bowl. I'm not pulling off that pick yet at this point, but I picked them. I thought they were going to cover the spread against Arizona. They obviously were not able to do that. So, I'm not hitting the panic button with Green Bay, but maybe they're just not as good as I thought they were. But I've got them at 6 this week. I dock them down a few spots despite the victory on the road against the Cardinals. At number 5, I had him at number 5 last week, and I'm keeping him at number 5. People might say I'm crazy. People might say I'm, getting carried away here with the New England Patriots, but they are a really good football team. If you listen to Off the Bench, you understand how I feel about Drake May, right? There was 6 quarterbacks taken in the first round a couple of years ago. I thought Bo Nix was going to be the best one of the bunch. I'm not necessarily backing off of that here at this point. I thought Drake May was going to be 2. Drake May might be 1 out of that class. He obviously went 3 behind Williams and Jaden Daniels a couple of seasons ago. He checks off all the boxes for a franchise quarterback. Huge arm, right? Mobile, within the pocket, outside of the pocket. He can run, right, obviously for first downs. He's physical. He's tough. He's a big dude. Leadership, checks all the boxes. Elite at the podium, seems like a great teammate. He elevates the play of players around him. That is the key component of a franchise quarterback, right? You question that with a guy like Brock Purdy. Oh, can he elevate the guys around him? There's some question marks there as it relates to that. Drake May can do that. Kayshon Boutte was viewed as a bust, and he has been sensational at the receiver position for New England this year. And Hunter Henry at the tight end spot. Yeah, he was good in L.A. He was good with Mac Jones his rookie year, but the past couple of years, he's just kind of been with no quarterback play. Well, all of a sudden, Hunter Henry looks like a really good player as well. And Mike Vrabel, I've said it multiple times, I do not understand why Tennessee possibly would want to fire him. The fact that Mike Vrabel and Ben Johnson were available this past cycle is crazy. I mean, those are two really, really good head coaches. And if you have the head coach and you have the quarterback, the sky is the limit for you as a football team. New England has checked both of those boxes. And, if Baker's, suspect performance last night, I mean, shoot, I might have Drake May as the second guy to the MVP award behind Patrick Mahomes. He is that good. He is that guy. Hopefully he can stay healthy. He did, take the hit in the head, missed a couple of plays, came back into the game. But New England's the real deal, and they're going to make the playoffs this year and compete with Buffalo, by the way, when it comes to potentially winning that division. Rams kind of view them similarly to the Packers, right, where it's like, okay, they're winning games. They've lost a couple of games where they shouldn't have, but it doesn't look as pretty as necessarily I thought. Well, they changed that narrative in London as they absolutely dismantled the Jacksonville Jaguars. Stafford didn't even throw for 200 yards in the game, but threw for 5 touchdowns. Devontae Adams, in the absence of Puka Nacua, reminded everybody that he is still Devontae Adams and one of the best receivers in the National Football League. McVay's a great coach. He's always going to have them ready to go. And that defense, man, is ferocious. Absolutely ferocious. Quentin Lake, by the way, that nickel, he's one of my favorite defensive players in the National Football League. He's tremendous. That pass rush is young. They're athletic. And they've got great energy and stamina there as well, as that was really a factor throughout the entirety of the game, even when the game was out of hand. And honestly, it felt like it was out of hand at halftime, but the offense for Los Angeles kind of was going out there and punting the football a lot early in the second half and giving the Jaguars a potential opportunity to get back in the game. But that Rams defense absolutely stymied them. They are terrific. They are a threat to win the World Championship. I had them at 6 last week. They dismantled the Jaguars, and they bump up a couple of spots. At number 3, I have the Detroit Lions. Last week, I had them at 7. The week prior, I had them at 1. Now they're in the middle of that as they sit at that number 3 spot. Dan Campbell's the real deal, man. I think sometimes he's reckless, and I don't think you can be reckless and win a Super Bowl. So if he continues to go on this path, which he probably will, I don't anticipate them winning a Super Bowl until he gets a little bit more I don't want to say the word conservative, but just a little bit more wise with some of his decisions, because it is reckless at some point. There's a point where, okay, that's not aggressive, that's just flat out reckless, and Campbell certainly toes the line and certainly crosses that line from time to time there as well. But Jared Goff, one of the most underrated players in the league, he's doing a great job. The running backs, Gibbs is one of my favorite players in the league. He's tremendous. It's obviously, these are pro athletes, right? All these guys are freaks out there. But when you're a pro athlete in the NFL and you can look even, I guess, freakier than everybody else you're going up against, that just speaks volumes. And that's exactly what Jahmyr Gibbs can do. It is just absolutely unbelievable. St. Brown, of course, tremendous. Laporta, the tight end, is great. I've got serious questions about the back end of their defense. But they were fine in the game against Tampa, against a really good passing attack. I understand they were able to get pass rush on Baker, so that's, to me, the biggest weakness of their team. I feel like they could potentially get into some shootouts late in the season, but I think they could potentially win some of those shootouts with what they've got there on the offensive side. Detroit's a really good team. I have them at number 3. At number 2, I have the Indianapolis Colts. I had them at 2 last week, and they stay at number 2. I've said it for several weeks now. They're the real deal. They've always been a team that I look at as, okay, they're just a quarterback away. They've got skill guys. They've got an offensive line. They've got a run game, one of the best backs in the league in Jonathan Taylor. They've got pieces there on their defense. There's some veteran guys on that defense. They get Lou Anarumo for Cincinnati. He's got them playing really well. And who would have thought Daniel Jones is coming in and playing elite football? Got to give him credit. He was completely written off, and just the awful things people would say about him in New York. I did not think this was going to work in Indianapolis, but it's Shane Steichen. He's brilliant, and people kind of forgot about that, just because the one mistake with him and Ballard, and I don't know how much of a say Steichen had in the Anthony Richardson draft pick, or if that was all Chris Ballard. I don't know, but really that's kind of what set them back over the past couple of years, is that they missed on the quarterback position. By the way, that happens in this league. It is really, really hard to get that position correct. People a lot smarter than you and I fail at that each and every year. And, that's just kind of an example there from the Colts and missing on a quarterback. It happens, but now they have one, and they're playing really good. They're going to win that division in the South, and I think they're going to win a playoff game there as well. I don't think this is a fluke. I think this is a real football team. Is Jones going to be perfect? No. Is he going to win the MVP? No. Is he still going to turn the ball over? Yes. But I still think the Colts are for real, and that has kind of been the surprise story from a good perspective. Right? I think the biggest surprise, of course, has been Baltimore stinking. But from a positive perspective, I think it's the surprise of the year, and credit to them as they've done a tremendous job. At number one, I don't like doing it. I'm going to get roasted for doing it, and I even said yesterday that I wasn't going to do it. But look, the Chiefs are the best team in the National Football League. Just kind of the reality of the situation. I don't like saying it. It stinks. And look, this is my power rankings, right? We're not just doing standings here. I understand that they've lost several games and that they don't have the best record in the National Football League. But what they did, I get it was against Las Vegas. I get their tire fire. But getting Rashee Rice back, oh, my goodness. Now all of a sudden you look at the weaponry they have, and it's like, oh, they got Rashee Rice. Oh, Travis Kelce, he still shows up on third down and in critical moments of the game. Oh, Xavier Worthy, he's this gadget guy that they can do creative stuff in the backfield with and be an explosive threat down the football field. Oh, Juju Smith-Schuster, he's not very good anywhere else, but you put him with Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, he's really good. Oh, Hollywood Brown, he's healthy this year. He's a threat down the football field, and he's catching the football. That's a really good offense. You couple it with Patrick Mahomes playing like he did 3-4 years ago. Andy Reid continuously in his bag like he always is. Spags has the defense playing well like he always does. And in a conference where there isn't really a great team, you can't look me in the eye and say, oh, that team definitely will beat Kansas City. You just can't do it. And, early on in the year, there was an opportunity for some teams to bury the Chiefs, right? I mean, the Ravens certainly had an opportunity to do so. And, obviously that wasn't able to get done. Now, their schedule is difficult. They're not going to just cruise into this thing. They've got to continue to prove that they're a good team, as their regular season schedule is not a cakewalk by any means. But I've got them at number one. When I watch the league right now, going into Week 8, the Kansas City Chiefs simply look like the best football team. So that is my power rankings here going into Week 8 in the National Football League. As always, interested to hear your thoughts. That will go up probably later today on the YouTube channel if you missed it. And, of course, our entire show is available in podcast form there as well, wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, iHeart, you name it. You can find our show along with Off the Bench, those podcasts. Will go up later today. So the NBA starts tonight. We're going to be talking basketball right here at my show. We're planning on this being a year-long thing. Obviously, we'll see. That's my goal. I hope we can continue to do that. Obviously, there's some questions that need to be answered and figure out, and I understand that. But the plan is to keep this thing rolling, right? And obviously, we're going to spend time talking about football, and this is predominantly during the football season going to be a football show. I understand that you guys are here for football, and even more specifically than that, probably the Cincinnati Bengals there as well. But we're going to talk NBA additionally. I think this year has an opportunity to be a really good year in the NBA. Now, there's some big injuries coming into the season, which obviously kind of hurts a little bit, right? Tyrese Halliburton, of course, what an incredible NBA Finals we had last year. He blows out his Achilles in Game 7. The Pacers are going to be without him throughout the entirety of the year. They lose Miles Turner there as well. So we'll see. I think I'm interested to see how the Pacers kind of respond here in this year. Kind of feels like a retooling year with no Halliburton, but we'll see. Jason Tatum as well. We'll talk about the Celtics more in depth here in a little bit, but he blew out his Achilles in the playoffs. They're going to be without him this year. They lost a lot of pieces there on their roster. Kind of feels like a retooling year for Boston there as well. Dame Lillard, he's back in Portland, but I believe it's an Achilles as well. We're not going to see him throughout the entirety of this season. So that's 3 stars right there that the NBA is going to be without here at this point. LeBron, of course, is going to miss some time at a lower back issue. He's going to miss the first couple of weeks. Obviously, he's an old player right now. He's going to miss some time regardless, but hopefully that isn't something that lingers for LeBron, because it kind of feels like the type of injury that could, push you out. But look, I'm not going to sit here and bet against LeBron. That's just a losing bet, as he's continued to do it over and over and over again. Kyrie Irving, by the way, of the Dallas Mavericks, we'll spend some more time talking about them on today's show there as well, but he's coming back from the knee surgery. They're going to be without him for the first chunk of the year. But the Thunder, of course, won the title in 7 games, terrific NBA Finals, the second youngest team to ever win the NBA Finals, and that's scary for the rest of the league, because, I fall victim to this, to be honest with you, as, these teams win the NBA Finals, and you're like, oh, they're going to repeat, they're going to do it again, right? I kind of felt like that with the Celtics winning and the Nuggets winning prior to that, where you're just like, they're so good, how are they not going to win again? And then it doesn't happen. Now, here we are again with the Thunder. And this feels like a little bit different, because I think out of the 2 teams I just mentioned, and you throw the Thunder into that mix, they're a team that, they actually could win this thing again, because everybody's back, right, for the OKC Thunder. They are the odds-on favorites to win. I'll have my predictions later in the week with, how I think the playoffs are going to transpire in the NBA. But, at this point, it's hard to bet against the OKC Thunder. They did a lot of great work this offseason. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, the reigning MVP, he's back. They gave him, a supermax deal. Jalen Williams, they agreed to a deal with him. Chet Holmgren, they agreed to a deal with him as well. And this is a team that won 68 games last season, and there's real talk about this team potentially being a 70-win team. They're the best defensive team in the NBA. They were last year as well. Some of the guys that they have, the kid from Kentucky obviously is a great player. And then Caruso, who's like their oldest player, and he's like 27, 28 years old. And he's tremendous on the defensive side. And, you get Holmgren back, and you won all those games last year, and Holmgren was, hurt for a big stretch of that time there as well. So they were the best defensive team in the NBA last year, and I kind of anticipate they'll be in that same category here this year, to be completely honest with you. And, I think the big thing for them is, like, are you going to be complacent, or are you going to go out there and, try to win a world championship again? Because all the pieces are there. Sam Presti, their GM, what a genius that guy is. All the picks that he stockpiled, and he's turned them into really good players here for the Thunder. I think the Thunder, they should be a problem for a really, really long time. And again, we'll have our picks later, but they're the odds-on favorite to win the NBA championship. And I think we talk about in college football how Ohio State at this point kind of has separated themselves from the pack, and there's other teams behind them that can win the national championship, but it's like they're not on the same level as Ohio State. Kind of how it feels here going into this NBA season. Yeah, there's some teams that can win, and obviously health and things like that play a big factor, but going into the year, the Thunder have separated themselves from the rest of the pack. So, we're talking about 10 teams here on this show. I kind of have picked them as my top 10 teams. I don't want to, everybody, it's another list. That's not really what it is. It's just kind of a preview here at this point, but we're going to talk about 10 teams, and I think I've got the Thunder at 1 going into the year. At 2, I have the Cleveland Cavaliers. I'm a Cincinnati guy. I'm not a Cleveland guy. Do I root against Cleveland? Absolutely. I root against Cleveland. And I think they're going to win a lot of games, and then they'll get to the playoffs and, probably lose at some point. Maybe they'll win a couple of series. I don't think they're going to win the NBA championship. Last year, they won 64 games. It was a really good season. I don't think for teams in the NFL and Major League Baseball and the NBA, people say, you didn't win the world championship, it's a failure. I don't think that is the case for every team, right? Apparently Cal Riley was like, it was a failure that we didn't win the World Series. This year was a success for the Seattle Mariners, right? This year was a success for the Cincinnati Reds. The Cavs, they're at a point where they're winning a lot of games. They've been good for several years now. If they don't win the finals, it's a failure, right? I think if you're one of the top teams in the league, it can be a failure, right? If Joe Burrow is healthy the whole year, you say, yeah, it's a failure if you don't win the Super Bowl. I don't think every team in the National Football League can say that. The Titans, right, going in the year with Cam Ward as a rookie, if we don't win the Super Bowl, it's a failure. No, it's not, right? Now, this year is still a failure for them. Their coach got fired and they won one game and they were lucky to win it, right? But I don't think every team necessarily is like, well, they didn't win the world title, so it's a failure. Cleveland, the Cavs are not in that boat. They've had success. They need to get it done. Defensively, they're incredible, right? Those two bigs there with Evan Mobley and Jared Allen, they're tremendous, and that's going to keep them in each and every game. Now, for them, the concern right now is injuries, right? Donovan Mitchell, obviously, is their best player. There's some questions about him going into the offseason this year, what exactly he's going to be doing. He's a terrific player, but he's worn down a little bit in the postseason over the course of the past few years. Maybe there's some, I hate to say the term load management, but maybe he rests a little bit more this year so he can be fresher down the stretch. But they're going to start this season with some injury issues. No Darius Garland to start the year for Cleveland, and no Max Strus as well. And that's some really good shooting that they're going to have to figure out how to replace in the early parts of the season. Also, Lonzo Ball. I'm a big Lonzo Ball fan, but everybody that knows the NBA and knows basketball knows that he can't stay healthy and stay out on the court. And, there's been reports that they're not going to play him in back-to-back games. Unfortunate, but probably the right call. But I've got Cleveland here at 2 going into the year. The injuries are a concern, but based on some of the success that they've had in previous years, it's kind of a finals or bust type of situation. And for what it's worth, I don't think they're going to be able to get it done. The Houston Rockets, this is a really fun team, right? They had some decisions to make this offseason, and they made, obviously, the big move trading for Kevin Durant, and they gave up Jalen Green, some picks, Dylan Brooks in the process to Phoenix. And when the trade went down, I was kind of like, hey, what are you doing, Houston? You're there. You're just a couple of years away. You've got great youth. You've got a great core. What are you doing? And as time goes on, I start to change my opinion a little bit more with this deal, because you take a look at what Houston is good at as a team, and you go, oh, they need a guy like Kevin Durant. I get it. It's one of the best players of all time. Lots of teams could use Kevin Durant. But we'll get into specifically why I think KD could really help this team. Now, Fred VanVleet, he got hurt. He's out for the year. That's a massive blow there for the Houston Rockets. He is a tremendous player. You've heard Draymond Green. He went out and said, the reason we lost in the finals to Toronto several years ago wasn't Kawhi Leonard. It was Fred VanVleet that ultimately kind of raised the bar there and helped them win the series. He was tremendous in the playoffs even last year with Houston. He's going to be out throughout the entirety of the year. And now you look at that Houston team and you go, well, who's their point guard? Well, you drafted a guy last year by the name of Reed Shepherd out of Kentucky. It's going to be his time to shine. We'll see, because they've got questions at point guard without Fred VanVleet. Can Reed Shepherd be that guy that comes in and is that point guard? If that checks out, Houston's going to be really, really good. The size that Houston has is insane. They're like the biggest team in the NBA. Amen Thompson, one of the best, if not the best defender in the NBA. He's tremendous. The size with KD. Jamari Smith is huge. Right, Şengün, he's huge, right? I mean, I think he's the guy that might get some MVP votes there at that center spot. You got Steven Adams coming off the bench. So, I mean, that's just tremendous size that you have. Now, here's the stat in particular that I think is going to be a reason why Kevin Durant is going to help them so much. The Rockets had a 43.8% effective field goal percentage on the dribble on the dribble jumpers last season. That was 27th in the NBA. Well, who's good at that? Kevin Durant, right? You're talking about a mid-range game, right? Off the dribble. Yeah, that's KD right there, and that is going to be fixed this year with him. Now, he's 37 years old. He's getting up there in age, right? He doesn't play a ton of games anymore, but they made this acquisition for the playoffs, and they made it from a leadership perspective there as well. And KD, throughout his career, has shown that, that's not really him. He's not really that leader. He just wants to kind of show up and hoop. That's got to change a little bit this year in Houston. But I think, when you get these guys older in the NBA, like LeBron, I don't think he can really do anything to change his legacy, right? He's the second best player of all time, and that's going to stand regardless of what he does here over the course of the next few years. I think Steph Curry maybe could, improve his legacy over the next few years, but I think Kevin Durant really can here in Houston. Right? Because, people view him as, he's a great player. He's one of the best players of all time, obviously a Hall of Famer, but, he needed Steph Curry in order to win a world championship. And this is a Rockets team that they can win the world title. And if KD can stay healthy, if they can stay healthy as a team and continue to develop, and he can lead and kind of fill some of those gaps, they're, as far as scoring the basketball from a mid-range perspective, this is a team that can win it all. And if he wins another title, I think people totally view Kevin Durant's career very differently, because ever since he left Golden State, he hasn't really done much at all, right? in the NBA. The Phoenix thing, that didn't work. We thought it would work with Booker. Clearly did not. And, the Brooklyn thing obviously didn't work as well. He has a chance here to really kind of reshape how people view his career. I've got the Rockets at 3. I think very highly of them, despite losing Jalen Green in that trade. 4, I have the Nuggets. They completely revamped their front office. Obviously, they fired Michael Malone last year. The NBA, it's crazy. People getting fired like he won the title a couple years ago and you fired him and you were going to the playoff. I don't get it. Jokic is the best player on the planet. He's got 3 MVPs. He could have 5 or 6, to be honest with you. He is tremendous. You've got some questions there defensively, right? Can he really anchor a defense? Obviously, that is a concern. They made the big move this offseason. They traded Michael Porter Jr. They get back Cam Johnson. I think that certainly can help. But the biggest question for them is how can they play when Joker is off the court, right? Because they got absolutely smoked last year when Joker was not on the floor. And it's going to be a lot of, Jamal Murray. He was tremendous when they went to the finals and won it, right? Hasn't really done much since. Has had, trouble staying on the court. Aaron Gordon, right? Those kind of guys need to be better than they were last year. And, they've got some new guards in the mix, and we'll see how they do. But, with Joker, the best player on the planet, they're always going to be a threat. But there are lots of questions, lots of new faces, and they got to find out how to play better on the defensive side of the ball there as well, because they had the worst defense out of any playoff team last year. I get it's the NBA and regular season. Does defense really mean a ton? You can make that argument, but they're not good enough on the defensive side, and they haven't been good enough with Joker not on the floor with Denver. But with him, they're always a threat. I've got him at 4. Minnesota at 5. Ant Edwards, you've been to the conference finals the past 2 years. Time to take that next step. Right, I said it with Cleveland earlier. Minnesota, you've been around, you've been deep in the playoffs before. Championship or bust. What are you going to do? Right? Anthony Edwards last year kind of added the three-pointer to his game. I think there towards the end he was taking too many threes, but what's he going to add this year? I think they're going to need him more from a playmaking perspective, which I think is something that Minnesota has struggled with. Conley, I think the world of him, but he's close to 40 years of age. He wore down a little bit in the playoffs and he wasn't as good. I think he's still a solid player, but is he going to be your starting point guard throughout the duration of the season? I don't know. Dante DiVincenzo is a guy that I think could step in there and perhaps take over that spot a little bit. He was tremendous in Golden State a couple of years ago. He was good in Milwaukee, and he was good, even last year as well. So I think he's a really good player, and he perhaps could take over some of that load. Then you got Dillingham, right? He's, could he perhaps burst on the scene a little bit there at that point guard spot for the T-Wolves? But, Ant, he's a guy, it's like, okay, we've seen a lot from you, but are you going to be able to elevate your team? Are you going to be able to take them to the finals? Are you going to be able to mess around and potentially win an MVP? I mean, he's got all the talent in the world to do it, and he's got good pieces around him. They're, top of their 7 of their top 8 scorers are coming back, and it's all in front of them here at this point for the Minnesota Timberwolves. I've got them at number 5 here going into the year. Number 6, Golden State. They've got a lot of age on the team, obviously. Their big acquisition this offseason, they bring in Al Horford, which I think is going to be a tremendous fit. Al Horford also is a really, really old player. And you also have guys like, Steph Curry. Obviously, he's going to be 38 by the time the postseason gets here. Draymond Green, certainly up there in age. Jimmy Butler no longer is a spring chicken. But I think this Warriors team is going to be really, really good this year. The biggest thing for them is how are they going to win games when Steph and Draymond aren't playing? Because they're going to have to do that. I think Steph and Draymond, they're only going to play, 65, 70 games, and that's even if they're healthy, right? They're just, they got to save them for the playoffs, right? And who knows, right? If Steph Curry is healthy in the conference in the semifinals this past year, do they potentially mess around and win that series? I could be wrong there. I don't remember if that was the semifinals or the finals. But, if Steph Curry against Minnesota there is able to, not have the hamstring injury, right, and play, then I think, they're in a spot where maybe they can mess around and win. As long as Steph is out there, he's one of the best players still in the NBA despite his age, and they're going to have a chance to be really good. I think they're a team that can win the championship. I really do believe that. But guys like Pods and Kuminga, the Kuminga thing, it's kind of, if I kind of felt like, they were going to move off him, but, now he's back. Steve Kerr wasn't playing him. They're going to have to trust him here at some point to go out there along with Podziemski to really help things offensively for them, especially when the guys I mentioned aren't out there. And yeah, we'll see if they have the ability to do that. But they're a veteran group. They're a real cerebral group. The way they play, I think, can lead to postseason success, and I think they're going to be a threat. I think the Warriors, they aren't done quite yet with the core that they have. I have them at 6. 7, I have the Knicks. Some people would say they should be higher than that. Thibodeau obviously out. Mike Brown is in. I'm interested to see how the Knicks look later in the year because Tom Thibodeau would just play his starters every game, every minute of every game throughout the whole year, and it's just like, dude, what are you doing? You can't do that. And I just don't think. And look, I think the world of Jalen Brunson. He is an unbelievable basketball player, but I don't know if he can be the best player on a team that wins a title. I just don't know. Can he be the best player on a team that gets to the conference finals? Sure. Could he be the best player on the team that even gets to the NBA finals? Yeah, maybe. But I don't know if he can be the best player on a team that wins the NBA finals. Look, there's going to be a lot of talk about Giannis. I'm not going to really talk about Milwaukee here on this list, but this is maybe his last year in Milwaukee. If they get off to a bad start, the rumors and all that's going to be going, the talk's going to be going crazy as it relates to Giannis. Lots of people think he's going to be a Knick. I think certainly if you put Giannis on the Knicks, that is a serious, serious threat. But I'm interested to see, with Brown taking over, the ability that he has there as a head coach. He's won in Sacramento, did a tremendous job. So, won in Cleveland several years ago, obviously with LeBron. So, they've got pieces, obviously, with Cat and OG and Bridges and those guys, but I don't know if it's enough to get them over the top. They're going to win. They're going to win the playoff series, but winning the finals, I don't know. I've got the Knicks at 7. The Lakers I have at 8. No LeBron, of course, to start the year. Luka might win MVP. That's kind of what my gut tells me right now is Luka Doncic might go mess around and win the MVP. I think he's coming differently this year. He's lost the weight. He looks, like he has a new focus. I think he's going to, at first when he got traded, I think it was sadness, shock, disappointment, maybe even a little bit depression there as well getting traded from Dallas. But I think that has transitioned now this offseason to motivation and maybe even a little bit of rage as well as Luka takes the floor for LA this year. It's crazy because he got traded, but he's one of the best players in the NBA. I don't love how much he whines on the court, whatever, fine. But from a playmaking perspective there on that backcourt with him and Austin Reeves, by the way, contract year for Austin Reeves here this season, they can do some serious damage. Can the Los Angeles Lakers? Obviously, they're not the same team with LeBron out there. Even if he's healthy, they can't expect him to play a bunch. He's still tremendous despite the fact he's 50 years old or however old LeBron is. So they definitely need him back. But the reason they lost in the playoffs last year is because they didn't have a center, right? I mean, they're trying to, Jackson Hayes, throwing him out there a little bit. He's not an elite NBA player, local guy. I know we'll show love, but, come on. That's not going to help you get to a championship, right? And they kind of were going with the small ball. And Gobert just obviously ate them alive in the playoffs last year. And, that's got to get fixed. And what did they do this offseason? They bring in DeAndre Ayton, and he is their wild card this year. If DeAndre Ayton is a hit, the Lakers could win the championship. If he is not, you're looking at another first-round exit or maybe even a play-in team, right? DeAndre Ayton has to stay healthy, and he has to be productive for this team. That was the move that they made to hopefully get them over the hump. We'll see, because then it's more Jackson Hayes and Vanderbilt and those guys if you don't have them. And that's certainly going to be an issue. Now, Luka has struggled staying healthy. He hasn't played more than 70 games since his rookie year. So that obviously could hurt him with the MVP. And obviously, if LeBron's out and Luka's out, now you're in deep trouble if you're the LA Lakers. But I think they have a lot of upside. The playmaking from Doncic and Reeves in the backcourt, if those guys are out there and healthy, is tremendous. And really excited to see that here. I've got them at 8. At number 9, I've got Dallas. Look, I might be, too high on Dallas, but look, I get Cooper Flagg is 18 years old. I understand that. There's going to be growing pains. That's fine. Cooper Flagg is going to be an unbelievable NBA player. Cooper Flagg is going to win a world championship at some point in the NBA. He is tremendous. And a lot of these first overall picks, they go to a team, and it's like, okay, you got to be the guy right away. And it's just some kid out there in the NBA, and he's trying to find his way, and they're asking him to be the guy. And that's a problem. Not the case here in Dallas. You had AD. Yeah, that guy's pretty good. Now, obviously, Anthony Davis has the issue staying healthy, but Davis is out there, and he can kind of be the guy for him, be the alpha on the court, and have, Cooper Flagg kind of get used to the flow of an NBA game. They can still pick up a lot of wins early in the year. Kyrie, as I mentioned at the top of this segment, recovering from the knee injury. They're going to be without him for a significant portion of the year. But that front court for Dallas is really big, and they're really athletic, and they move around really well. Derek Lively, Daniel Gafford, P.J. Washington, right? He's like a sixth man who potentially could be a starter for you there as well. Now, from an offensive, playmaking perspective, you kind of worry about that a little bit with no Kyrie Irving, but who can do that really well? Oh, yeah, the 18-year-old Cooper Flagg. And I think if he kind of settles in as more of a, early on in his NBA career, and he's more of just kind of a playmaker and not necessarily asked to score the basketball a ton, that could be dangerous for the Dallas Mavericks. They have a great coach in Jason Kidd. They signed D'Angelo Russell. He's probably going to be their point guard. He struggled last year, but he's just a streaky guy. He can be really good. He can be really bad. We'll see what version of D'Lo you get. You have some questions defensively, right? Clay obviously can't guard like he used to, but he can still shoot the rock, right? And I expect him to make a lot of threes this year. For Dallas, I think they're a good team. I think they can mess around and go on a run here. Cooper Flagg, super excited to see him, especially when Kyrie gets back. And then you got AD and Cooper Flagg and Kyrie and Klay Thompson shooting. That's a fun team. And, look out. Dallas, people acted like they're dead and gone after that Luka trade. Well, then they lucked into getting Cooper Flagg, and they might be good. At number 10, and I might be reaching a little bit here, but I've got Boston. I think a lot of people out there, it feels like a rebuild year, right, for Boston, right? Tatum's out. That's huge. One of the best players on the planet, out with an Achilles, going to be gone the whole year. And then you lost a lot of pieces, right? You lost Al Horford, you lost Kristaps Porzingis, and you lost Luke Cornett. Oh, my goodness, all your size. Yeah, it's gone. So that is certainly an issue. But, Brad Stevens and Joe Mazzulla, they're not going to be wired to sit there and, we'll just kind of rebuild this year and, it's on to the following year when we get JT back. That's not how those boys roll, all right? And by the way, you still have Jaylen Brown and Derek White, who wouldn't surprise me at all if they're both all-stars this year. They're great, and you can win a ton of games with them. They're going to be chucking threes, right? Nobody shot threes like the Celtics did last year. Well, guess what? They're going to be shooting even more this year. I worry about the size, the lack of size. That ultimately is probably what is going to hold them back. But this is a team that's won a ton of games for a long time, and I don't just think they're going to fall off a cliff here. They still have Jaylen Brown. They still have Derek White, and Mazzulla's going to get the most out of the guys that he has out there. I still got Boston at 10. Do they belong at 10? Probably not. Probably like a 15, right? Should be more middle of the pack. But I'll go with Boston here at the 10 spot. And some people would probably say I'm crazy for not having the Clippers on this list. I just think they're too old, and I know I just said the Warriors are going to be good, and they're pretty old too. You added some guys, Bradley Beal, but what did he do in Phoenix? Oh, yeah, nothing. Brook Lopez, solid. He's a dinosaur, right? He's really old. You had John Collins, Chris Paul, the point guard. Think the world of him, but he's old as well. Kawhi Leonard, he's got the injury issues, and he's got the, whatever lawsuit that he's going through right now or whatever scandal. I don't really know the details of that here at this point, but, Kawhi's got some issues there as well. So, and James Harden, of course, is really, really old for them. Additionally, so I don't know. I don't view the Clippers as a threat. Maybe I should have them in the top 10, but I don't really view them as a threat. And a team that, the Atlanta Hawks, look for them this year. They might kind of burst onto the scene and do some good things there. Obviously, a lot falls on the shoulders of Trae Young. He's done it before. They haven't been very good the past few years, but I think they made some acquisitions, good draft picks, steps in the right direction. Look out for Atlanta to be a solid team. But clearly here, the West is a lot better than the East. Kind of feels like several years ago, right, where that was kind of the case. The West is loaded and the East is wide open, so there's plenty of opportunity for other teams. Obviously, didn't really talk about the Bucks. Giannis has the ability to carry that team, and we'll see. They got to get out to a hot start, or things are going to get kind of noisy rather quickly for Giannis there in Milwaukee, because obviously there's already been reports and rumors that he wanted out, in Milwaukee. So we'll see. But that's kind of our NBA preview. 10 teams wanted to discuss. We'll have our predictions for conference finals later in the week. We'll do more college basketball stuff, but that was kind of our sprinkle there as we kind of get into the NBA here. Pretty much out of time here on the show. Real quickly, Monday nights, the Lions, one of our best bets of the weekend. We needed it, 2-4 on the weekend. Not the best, but kind of saves it from being just a disaster there. Felt really good about that one. Vegas clearly knew something. The money was all on Tampa. The spread was huge, and they went out there and covered. No problem whatsoever. Seattle had them in my power rankings. They're real, right? Houston thought they would win the division. C.J. Stroud continues to regress. That offensive line's not very good. They're not very creative offensively. Defense maybe not as good as we thought. So, C.J. Stroud, incredible rookie year. Past 2 years have been but he did win a playoff game last year, and that is very noteworthy when it comes to that. So, that's going to save CJ even if they, miss the playoffs this year and are bad. Like, he has 2 playoff wins, and that is very, very significant, especially in year 3 here as a quarterback. Blue Jays, Dodgers, we'll preview it more throughout the week. I'm excited. Don't think I've been this excited for a World Series in a long time. I mentioned 2019, right? Nationals, Astros. That felt awesome going into that, but yeah, this is going to be a tremendous series. There's some people that think it's going to go 4 or 5 games. I'd be surprised. I think it's going 6 or 7, to be completely honest with you. The Jays were my pick to win it all. I'm not backing off that pick here at this point. I understand they're underdogs, but that's a fun team, man. Top to bottom, that lineup they can pitch to. They've got some guys with Gausman, Bieber. He's not great yet, but still finding his way. Doesn't need to be great, though, with the offense that they have. But really, the starting pitching against this Blue Jays offense, that is going to be the matchup. Because you got Glass now, and you got Yamamoto, and Ohtani's like your 4th guy. Blake Snell, what a savage that he is. So really interested to see the Toronto Bats against that lineup. And if they can score off some of that starting pitching for Los Angeles, they're going to win the series, right? And we'll see ultimately if they can do that. The Dodgers bullpen's problems seem to have been quelled a little bit. They didn't find themselves in a ton of close games. They did have to rely on the pen a little bit in the previous series, but they've pretty much been on cruise control here through the postseason. If the Blue Jays can just apply some pressure, make things a little bit more difficult, and I think that could potentially lead to a really good series. I got the Jays winning. We'll see. I got them pulling the upset. We'll talk about it through the course of the week a little bit more. Appreciate everybody for hanging out, as always, here at the show. If you missed any parts of the show, it's fine. Podcast will go up, the Stone Shield Show, wherever you get your podcasts. Clips on YouTube there as well. The Power Rankings and our Bengals segment and the NFL. The NBA preview, that will go out later today. We'll be here throughout the remainder of the week. Stay tuned on Twitter. We'll have updates. I don't know if we're going to do I Host Off the Bench and then, my show after. If Casey's here, maybe that is, a possibility. Or if we just roll my show at 10 o'clock. But there's a good chance that my show will be at 10 o'clock throughout the remainder of the week. So that's just a heads up there on that front. We'll have updates on Twitter. Give me a follow at StoneShields_. Follow the show as well at the Stone Shields. Appreciate everyone, as always, for tuning in. And we'll talk to you here tomorrow on Chatterbox Sports. Take care, everybody.